Madam, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, thanks. Good evening and welcome to the City of Keystone Heights monthly council meeting. It is July 13th, 2026 at 6 o'clock. I want to call the meeting to order. Mr. Wright, would you give us our invocation?
All right, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this great city of Keystone Heights that we live in. Lord, we thank you for the people who make this community such a special place. We're grateful for the opportunity to serve and for the leaders who give their time and effort to guide our city. Lord, we ask for your wisdom, patience, and discernment on the council members and their decisions that impact our families, our businesses, and our neighbors. Lord, we're thankful for our state. Lord, we're thankful for our nation. And we ask that you bless the leaders at every level with wisdom, integrity, and the heart to serve. Lord, we also give thanks for the men and women in our military, past and present, who have sacrificed so much to protect our freedoms that we enjoy. Please watch over them and their families. Lord, continue to bless our city. Lord, help us to make good decisions. And Lord, we thank you for all the blessings you bless us with. And we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Vice Mayor Bush.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Booth, can you give us a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Knight.
Present.
Vice Mayor Welch. Here. Councilman Lewandowski.
Present.
Mayor Rodenoff.
Present.
And Councilman Ludwig.
Still present.
And Mayor, you still have a quorum?
Yeah.
And everyone's present.
Great, thanks. Okay, first thing on the list here is city manager report.
All right, Mayor, thank you. Let's see. Jump in, make sure we got it all. Hey, so I did want to start off by just thanking all the amazing work by all the pantheon of organizations and people that helped us pull together or celebrate the 4th of July here in Keystone Heights. The Jordan Cooper Foundation with the 5K run, the Lake Region Kiwanis for the parade, Pangborn Ice Cream even held a banana split eating contest. I think Faith Fueled Nutrition had a little hydration station out here to help people out. Councilman Lewandowski and his son ran a volleyball tournament. The Heritage Commission had the pie baking contest going on. Just a great community effort to pull it all together, and couldn't do it without all those various organizations and volunteers. I do want to thank the dedicated staff led by Drew Bell, kind of synchronizing all of those different organizations and people. Did a terrific job from running the vendor fair, food truck operations, the fireworks show, ticket sales, probably the most challenging part of the fireworks show, as well as the Les Grander's bathroom cleanings and trash pickup. Just an outstanding job by the about 12 folks from the city staff that were working that day in a couple of shifts. I'll go back to the regular way. I go through what the team's been doing over the last month, starting off with the Public Works team, Garrett Cox leading that group. Had to do some repairs on the 15-passenger van that we used to transport our teammates, our inmate teammates. I do want to thank Rivera Tire and Mr. Jim Bertata for jumping on it and fixing an issue we had with some fuel injectors, O2 sensor issue communication. He got it fixed so we could get those members back and forth to where they spend the night. So appreciate their support. Garrett specifically coordinated. Many people didn't know about this, but it took about 3 weeks. But Garrett coordinated for the removal of about a 10-foot nuisance alligator that was hanging out down by Keystone Beach, and so that is now gone. Not a problem. They worked on an overhaul maintenance of our sewer lift station down at Keystone Beach, working on cleaning out excess from the Public Works area. It's looking much better. If you've been put down by the yard, still a ways to go, but they put in a lot of effort. And then the last thing is mowing, and a whole lot more mowing. So appreciate their work. On the code enforcement side, I covered this in my weekly update, but Miss Debbie Mullis spent months, probably 5 months, working to find the right people in AT&T. If you've ever driven on Highway 100, just past Commercial Circle, probably 3-5 years ago, there was probably a car wreck that knocked over a small, like half telephone pole that had some form of AT&T infrastructure on it. And it has sat there as city blight ever since. Debbie kind of worked that out, found it, got AT&T finally out there, got it fixed and cleaned up. Some people don't notice it. It's been driving me crazy. I appreciate her hard work, but it takes a lot of effort sometimes to get Blight cleaned up and get the right people to take care of their infrastructure. So I appreciate her work. Matt Cole out of the cemetery, as well as Ms. Mullis, working on establishing getting our columbarium operating for folks who want to be interned and earned. That we've had our first 4 sales and uses of the columbarium in the last month or so. And so what's good is there's a price differential now for plots or an inurnment, but also that every time that columbarium is used, we're extending the usable life of the cemetery because they're much more space efficient using that system. So great work getting that up and running and maintained. City Hall front desk with Wendy and her team, just an absolute great job. We've got the digital scans completed of the minutes. We're still looking over the digital version to make sure that that's acceptable. So we're really happy about that effort. Appreciate Wendy and the team working on it. Drew Bell, aside from the 4th of July, did coordinate and get 2 summer concert events done. Unfortunately, both of them rained out because it is Florida. But we did shift over into the pavilion. Those were very nice events. The last summer concert series is on August 7th at 6 p.m. and it's going to be the end of Summer Blues. So hopefully the end of Summer Blues does not come with evening rain showers. We shall see. Bo, overall project management, we'll get a back brief on how the Geneva Jungle assessment's gone tonight. Coordinated for Nitty to come back out here and do some repairs on that e-bike vandalism work. So that was done right at the beginning of June. Fireworks contract did very, very well. I think if everybody liked them, thank Bo. If you were not happy with them, come talk to me. The City Hall HVAC, an invitation to bid. So we're hopefully tonight y'all will approve some replacement air conditioners to our 20-plus-year-old systems that are up on this roof and have been acting up over the last year. We coordinated for the soft wash and of the paint event that we had out on the tennis courts, as well as getting the skid marks removed. Secured a $5,000 safety grant loan from our insurance company, and then Bo, Janice Fleet, and our planning and zoning board completed their work on the comprehensive plan, and we finished off that $60,000 grant work that we've been doing, and now that comprehensive plan will come before you all in the August meeting for consideration and sending to the state. I'll let Tiffany, for fiscal issues, Ms. Tiffany Coleman, I can't say enough about her. She has got us to a clean audit, and we'll get a briefing on that. But not only just the audit, but also the previous audit findings have been cleared, so they are not repeat audit findings. So we had a truly clean audit. I appreciate her hard work. Let's see, we continue financially to be performing better than expected with income ahead of expenses in the general fund. Right now, $475,000 in grants or legislative appropriations tagged to the city gained. We're still working through the execution of all of them. We've got an additional $1.6 million requested. We'll see how that goes. Now I'm going to shift and talk to kind of the tougher issue, which we talked about last time. I'll call it vandalism, laziness, and negligence. So I'll start off by talking to everybody that our parks are here for everybody to enjoy, come out and have fun. But we want to make sure that folks are treating those parks as if it's their own, because it is. Particularly it is owned by the citizens of Keystone Heights. So we've had some issues, and I'm just going to lay out what the city's been dealing with broadly. In the dog park, we've got folks that go down and damage our water fountains, bathrooms, and the electrical outlets through vandalism. There's a lady that keeps going down there and damaging that infrastructure, short-circuiting the electrical outlets and jamming wood into the doggy water fountain in the dog park so it sits there and runs all day. We've repaired it 3 months ago. Facebook was already talking about how it was broke over the weekend, and I went out and confirmed, yep, it's broke again. So we've even turned in video that we could get of this individual to CCSO, but it wasn't actionable. We'll keep working on getting that taken care of. We've had folks out on these split rail fences out here using them as balance beams and breaking them because of their weight, and then jumping up back on them to try and use it again. When I shouted across the road for them to stop, that gentleman told me, if you don't want him to do it, we should put up a sign. So apparently a sign for don't use split rail fences is balance beams is appropriate. On our basketball and tennis courts, we've had numerous e-bikes and bicycles out there hitting their brakes or during burnouts that put skid marks or tire marks throughout them on both of those. Within 1 week of having the tennis court put in place, a young lady took a rock and scratched girl's rule on the far back corner while I'm pretty sure parents were sitting over there potentially not paying attention. There's a young lady who doodles a cute little cat in permanent marker on nearly every picnic table on Keystone Beach. Haven't been able to catch that one yet. It's an absolutely adorable doodle, but it's in black permanent marker, so it's vandalism. City tennis courts. We've had the acrylic surfacing on that. I've described it to you all before, but I'll say it for the public now. Someone put the rear tire of an e-bike down, gunned the accelerator, and let that tire burn 1/4 of an inch through the acrylic surface down into the asphalt at 2 different locations. That same person then went down at some point and did a similar thing on the Trex decking of the Keystone Heights Pavilion deck. And so we did catch that that adult male, and we'll probably be going through the CCSO and court system about that issue. We've had ATVs that pull up into our parks and drive. I had to ask 3 ATVs that pulled up next to this playground out here to remove their ATVs and go park them somewhere else. Guess what they said? Well, you should have a sign that says no ATV parking next to your playgrounds. We've had damage to our pavilion deck railing down in the Geneva Jungle picket fences. The railings that are in there, the pickets on the fence have been kicked out on a regular basis, so we have to spend time repairing. And we get littering everywhere. Our number 1 litter in the playground at Geneva Jungle, I know because I picked it up, are Capri Suns and the little plastic wrappers for those dang straws. And so, everybody takes a part in either taking care of or diminishing our facilities.
Do you have a sign for that?
Yeah, we should put up a no Capri Sun sign. I'm sure we're negligent in that. Most recently, on 2 separate occasions, an adult female came out here right at dusk and into dark on the first time and put paint on the lower portion of the far court. It may have been chalk paint, but it was paint. And we didn't notice it for a week later after a second time wrapping around the court. That same individual came out and did another increasing of the paint job. And we at that point in time, I didn't know who that person was. I made the call that we were going to do a social media post about all of this various type of vandalism. We picked 3 examples, that one being one. And we got a lot of social media backlash if you read through it. Most of the comments were along the lines of, well, you should put up a sign, build a place where kids can do this kind of thing that's controlled. It will come off with Dawn dish soap and rainwater. It didn't. Don't you have folks who you pay that can clean up after an event like this? And you should not call out a mother who's just trying to have a good time with her child. Well, that might be an honest assessment of what we were doing. But I will tell you, I didn't know how to stop it. We can't put somebody out there constantly watching. And I will tell you, within 1 hour of the social media post, that individual contacted us, apologized, and offered to come out and attempt to clean it up. And so I do appreciate, and I'm not trying to make ill of this, the lady that did this. I appreciate that she owned up to it, she reached out to us, and she did come out a couple days later, or 2 days later, and try and get that cleaned up. Unfortunately, it's paint. It wasn't chalk, it wasn't sidewalk chalk, it was paint. And so we had to bring in a professional cleaner, soft cleaner, last Tuesday, spend $850. That gentleman spent 6 hours on that court. He first tried to lift that off with a hydrogen peroxide based cleaner. Then he had to shift over to a degreaser, which did finally bring the paint off the acrylic surface on the tennis court. You can no longer see those images that were out there. And so it takes time, it takes effort, it takes Bo's time, my time, Public Works time to remedy these issues. We may get frustrated about it, we may vent about it. What I will say is, when I talk to the team is, we may vent, but after we're done venting, we're going to go back around and pick up the Capri Suns, re-screw the pickets back into the Geneva Jungle fence, and we're going to do what we can to try and repair work that's damage that's done throughout the city. What we're asking for is the citizens that are out that see this happening to call folks out when they see it. Should you so be inclined to message on Facebook your disagreement with, I don't know, some of the things that people think we should be doing as a city, we'd appreciate the support. But I think it needed to be addressed. I wanted everybody to understand the city's perspective when we did post. And hopefully people know that we're out watching, trying to take care of the infrastructure that City Council is trying to approve and get more of, or take care of what we have, and what our citizens, businesses, and folks that use it want to use it, and make sure it's maintained well. I will end my city manager comments with just saying, let me see, make it down to the last one. The next CRA and City Council meeting will be Monday, August 3rd at 5:30, and then at 6 p.m. We will have a 5 o'clock workshop, so kind of like we did today, but that workshop will be to discuss Councilman Lewandowski's proposal on the cities to purchase vendor market stalls, if I think the right term we're going to call it. So that's scheduled for 5 o'clock, August 3rd.
I'm gonna recommend, because of the budget situation, that we cancel that. We just don't have money for that kind of nice thing anymore.
For cancel what?
The kiosks, workshop,
Oh, yeah.
kiosks. I just,
The present budget, Dan, or the budget you anticipate after the,
so the
Property
budget
tax
for
change.
next fiscal year,
okay.
and it's impacted by multiple things. And we are over budget already, and we haven't even taken cuts yet associated with the potential increase in homestead exemptions. So I'm gonna just recommend we, no, I mean, I'm not gonna get it. It's just not gonna happen. It's just, I've wanted this since 2017, and I'm just not gonna get it. It's just not gonna happen.
We got consensus to drop that workshop. All right, we'll take that off the calendar. Madam Mayor, that's all I had, unless there's questions.
Yes, go ahead, gentlemen. I know y'all have some questions.
Apologize for the length of my
Yeah,
report.
no, it's great.
I know you're surprised, I have a question. Regarding the vandalism, if citizens see a vandalism in progress, I guess, maybe they know them, they can discuss it, hopefully, the vandal would have some decency and not, abuse the, observer, verbally or otherwise. My question to our city attorney, do the vandals have an expectation of privacy when they're damaging public property?
So there's no expectation of privacy if you're committing a crime.
Okay, so if I see Bubba out there burning donuts on the tennis court, and I can get a picture of him, he can't sue me for whatever.
Well, so I was trying to be very careful. Somebody can sue somebody for anything.
Okay,
I would say you would have a good defense, being that there's not an expectation of privacy when you're in public.
okay. But you may have to expend some funds for your defense.
Hopefully not.
Well, I mean, so, based on what he just stated, why not go to Safer Watch, send the photograph to our officer locally, and say, I need to report, this is against our laws in the city, can you please follow up?
Pursue.
So,
Then intervene.
so you can, if it's during hours of city staff here from, about 8 o'clock until 4, they can always call us at 352-473-4807. Or they can, if it's after hours or they think it's significant enough for CCSO. I generally, for the stuff that we deal with, I think the non-emergency line is generally appropriate. That's 904-264-6512 or the Safer Watch app.
They are very fast to react. We had some of the ATVs going down Magnolia at about 30 miles an hour, kids, and called them, and they were right on it. Like, I saw them for
Really?
like less than 5 minutes. And all I did was did on my phone, and they could call me and talk to me about it. I had them chase down an ATV that came onto the beach, all the way from the neighborhood, right along the beach, tearing up the sand. A bunch of kids were down there playing and laughing about it. Two ATVs with grown men in it, thinking it's real funny. I tried to chase them down myself, but I called SaferNet and said, I need you to address this. And they were out there like within minutes. unfortunately, they got into the swampy areas, you go down 100. But since then, you guys have put something up to try to offset that.
Yeah, try to not completely isolate the area from state sovereignty land, but
Right.
made it more difficult for
But I
ATVs
have
to come through.
seen, what do you call them, dirt bikes, e-bikes, go down into our park on the handicap ramp and go all the way up onto our deck of our pavilion with them. So they're definitely down there. They do not need to be down there. I actually saw a kid, I couldn't believe the police didn't do anything, on July 4th night on one of those skateboards that lights up. What are those things called that are motorized? Yeah, riding through the park right there, right in front of everybody, and through all those people. I'm like, what is something? And they went right by the police. They didn't say anything about it, so I was a little surprised. Do you have something?
I do. I have two items. So one, I know previously we had talked about some of the issues with some of the folks on the e-bikes and ATVs speeding on Orchid. It was a pressing issue that I had multiple community residents come up and ask me about. One of the times a literal pastor was cursed out. With that said, I believe after that, I know it was brought to the concern or to the attention of CCSO because I noticed they put a camera out there along Orchid Avenue, and those issues disappeared for about a month and a half, and then that camera got pulled right before the 4th of July, and it's happening again. I've been home a grand total of 2 days the last 2 weeks, and I've seen it both days that I've been there, so I guarantee it's happening more than that. But I would like to see if we can request getting that camera returned back out there because it did serve as a deterrent for that month that it was out there. The second one is just a question. So I know next month you said, I believe the meeting is August 3rd. Thinking about, obviously City Hall is used as an early voting location. Is that during the early voting time would the City Hall chambers be being used? No? Okay.
Yes.
It's gonna affect planning and zoning and heritage, but not the city council.
Okay. And that's it for me. I just want to make sure.
So, Mayor,
Yes,
I had
sir.
an observation, and I shared this with Mr. Booth on Friday. One concern I have is this keeps occurring with the vandalism. It's an ongoing issue. I'm alarmed personally a little bit about the public comments online. I think
Yes.
just to be really honest about it, I think there's a problem with some of the adults in the community, quite frankly. And I'm trying to be nice. So, if this continues, one of the, I think, solutions, and I don't even really propose it, but I did mention this to Mr. Booth, and that is, we can make it where it has a little code. You have to have a key card and treat it like that. I mean, where I grew up, you had a senior rec center. You went in there and you paid $1 or $2 if you wanted to go play racquetball or something, and that was just normal. And I don't want to do any of that because to me, that changes the fundamental nature of the community. But I don't also think we should have to walk around seeing a sign everywhere for common sense. Common sense and 70 IQ or above. I mean, this is insane behavior. And so I'm open to that. I don't know what the council would want to do in the future. And I do think it would be expensive initially. But the reason we can't consider things like the booths that you wanted to discuss is because over a year, these acts of vandalism add up. And then it makes me worry about a pocket park. We have 2 or 3 of those around. We already have vandalism at the dog park. And, it changes the nature of how the community presents. And we have a duty, especially to this downtown area and every homeowner. And I wanted to share that with you. I'm disturbed by it. I hope the law enforcement, the sheriff can do something. But if not, we're going to have to take some kind of action long term, I think. And it will change the nature of how you access recreation in this area. And that's unfortunate, but I don't know what else to do. At least or propose. You may not agree with that, but that's where we are today. You shouldn't have to be under surveillance either to get someone to do it right. They ought to know enough. We've been reared in such a way that we don't have to watch them to behave right.
Well, literally, as we're in this meeting, I've watched an ATV just fly down 21, like as I'm sitting right here. Cannot believe it's just like, so I guarantee you it's probably one of those individuals, literally as we speak, I'm sure y'all heard it.
I'm glad we didn't have
outside.
glass windows, no telling what they were saying to us.
It's not just that. My wife and I were at Whisks a couple weeks ago, and there's a young man on a dirt bike popping wheelies down Lawrence. Trying to show off. He's doing it somewhere else too?
Right here.
Yeah, right here.
Down Lakeview.
Yeah, and until I came out of Whisk and stared at him, and he saw me staring at him, then he left. But otherwise, he was going back and forth, up and down Lawrence.
Well, I'm sure he was obeying the speed limit use.
Oh no, oh no.
Yeah,
He was
that's
showing
what I'm
off
talking
and causing trouble.
Well, I shared with you, Jamie, I think after this whole e-bike bill was being processed with legislators, and then in Clay County, weighed in on what their approach is gonna be, which is kind of piggyback into what the state has recommended, and Richard might be able to weigh in on it. It was in the paper, but Jeremy Clark was our previous deputy in the area. He's now kind of overseeing this for Clay County education. Their initial effort is to educate the community about the use of e-bikes and the age limit and the speed limit and all these things. Also some of the statistics and about prevention. Their goal is, it sounds like, to educate first, and then they're going to enforce next. And it means that they will be sharply enforcing the law about what you are allowed or not allowed to do with those types of vehicles. So I had hoped that we could reach out to Mr. Clark and have him come and do somewhat of a town hall here. Make sure the schools know it, those schools, principals are aware of it, go to the churches, make sure leaders in the community that are around kids, that they have children or they know kids, who come and listen to what is gonna happen next. Something's gotta be done about the whole thing with the e-bikes, the scooters, the trail bikes. I mean, it goes on and on. And it's flagrant. I mean, it's everywhere in the city. Somebody's gonna get hurt. It's just a matter, it's not if, it's gonna be a matter of when.
Well, and they're not
And,
residents either. That's the
well,
other frustration.
I know that, but if the law starts playing a role in it and writing citations, you know, I don't know what else you can do. And you know, the whole thing about this vandalism, everything I've read in other cities is you see it, you need to report it. And you can either ask them to stop doing it, but you can report it to law enforcement. We have law enforcement presence here, they have that app, you can call the city, but I say it's a little stronger with the law enforcement presence to enforce the law. And if you can't read directions, you can see a tennis court, it is not a playground, it is not a playpen. If you wanna go fenced in area, it's right across the street, if you wanna take your child over there. But, we can't keep letting, we've invested way too much money, way to over 10 years to get those tennis courts and basketball courts in decent shape, and they look beautiful. And so we have to do all we can to protect it. And whatever it is, if it's a law enforcement, then that's what it is.
I'm all for putting up a fence, Madam Mayor, and hire or put key card access.
But, well, that's a whole other step,
Yeah.
you know.
I hope we don't go that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think in, it's either Walika, I think, they require to ride a golf cart in the city, you have to have a city permit. And you pay for it annually, and only the person who has that permit is allowed to drive that golf cart in their area, in their community.
On the roads.
Is it Walika? Huh?
Walaka, you mean?
Yeah, Walika.
It's on city roads.
It's on city what?
Roads.
City roads, right, but they have a permit, they have to pay for it, correct? And it has to meet all the guidelines for, you know, street safety or whatever, if I'm not mistaken.
It does. I mean, there's a lot of local governments that have those type of regulations.
Yeah, because we do have a fair amount of golf carts, I mean, I have two, so I know that those are out there as well. But I do see young kids driving the golf carts throughout the city, that probably should not be driving. So,
Well, the law changed, so most local governments are relying on the statute, but it's also having enforcement of it as well. So you could write the world's best ordinance, it's not gonna bring more law enforcement down to enforce that big ordinance.
yeah. So maybe could we meet with, the chief for here, the new guy that's the chief, Mr. What's his last
Molina?
name?
Chief Molina?
Molina, yeah. And ask for his guidelines on this, and maybe get Mr. Clark down here to do an educational thing. And just let the public know that we're gonna start enforcing some regulations.
Madam Mayor, you mind if I reach out, phone
Yes.
friend?
Sure.
Could we ask CCSO to focus on that in the next sheriff's net meeting potentially?
We can talk to
Oh,
him.
that's a great idea.
maybe we have Chief Molina
Yeah.
actually speak at the meeting. I know we are bumping July's meeting out to August. So for some reason they couldn't do it without us, and we're gonna be on vacation, so they bumped it out a month. So,
You're too involved in the community, you can't go on vacation, it shuts down.
Yeah.
we were like, wow, okay. But anyways, yeah, maybe
So
we could
August
talk to
20th,
them about
definitely have it, see if we can come in,
Okay.
that would be something.
Yes, Jen.
I just wanted to say real quick, at the last county commissioners meeting, Commissioner Herringer, he mentioned about the e-bikes, and he's teaming up with CCSO. They're doing flyers
Yeah.
to educate the whole
There's
community.
a big thing in the Clay paper about some of the efforts going on.
Correct. So he said they're gonna be working on that in the month of August, so maybe if y'all wanna team up with that, they already have something in the works.
Okay.
Is there something that can be done with education, or educating in the schools? Does anyone know? I mean, full transparency, when I was there, when I was 14, 15, I rode an XR 75 Honda up and down the roads when they're going up. I'm here, much to the surprise of me. But we've got way too much density, way too much traffic, and some child is going to get critically hurt or killed in the process of this. And so, if we could maybe even have the schools involved in this. and let
Absolutely,
them
reaching
hear
out
it,
to the principals in the area.
You know, when you're young, you think you're going to live forever, and, you know, this is a good way to end your life.
Well, Ryan, and not to interrupt,
No,
but
Chuck, just
with
figured
them,
together, come up.
sorry about that. So with the officers that are in the schools, I mean, why couldn't they coordinate something between the officers,
Absolutely.
the principals, and then them put on some kind of a thing in the gymnasium or something like that, where they just,
I
they
agree.
have whoever is that officer that's, assigned to that school come in and they do a briefing on what that should be.
And that whole thing is about communication. And
Right.
so I agree with that, but I think parents also need to hear what's gonna happen. Cause you can hear something in a school as a kid, and they're like, oh, we heard that, but my mom and dad don't know. So we have to find a way to reach the parents so that they are aware that your kid could get a ticket or go to jail.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what the law is, but I don't know. I'm just saying, they need to know.
Is that something you
So-
could recommend to them?
I mean, that's something we could talk to Sheriff Cook about, I'm sure.
Really wonderful.
If they'd be willing to do it. It'd probably have more pull if, the city and you guys had mentioned it, because,
Okay.
the problem is within the city.
Right.
And then, I mean, we could come in from the backside and try to, just double down on it along with you guys.
Okay.
I'll reach out to Chief Molina about everything and kind of summarize everything we talked about.
Debbie's the one with all the pull, though.
Were you gonna say something, Rich?
So a little bit is, a lot of these things that we're talking about are the same things St. Johns County went through last year. There have been 2 kids that have died. One ran into an Amazon truck. There's a lot of regulation in Florida statute, which is why they didn't pass their own ordinance. They took the same approach where the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office was pulling over, stopping, citing. They were calling parents to come pick up the e-bikes. The challenge is the statute doesn't have, they put e-bikes with bikes, and for all practical purposes, they're really mopeds or motorcycles. By the speed that they go, they should not be on sidewalks. They talked about the same educational training in the schools. Actually, the current St. Johns County Commission Chair, Clay Murphy, partnered up with the University of South Florida. They put together a training module. They've gone to the schools. The schools say because classroom time is so valuable, they can't separate that out. So they have offered volunteer programs for kids to attend. At one point, there was some discussion that if you wanted to ride your e-bike to school, you had to go through their program. It wasn't mandatory, but it was encouraged that way. But the same approach of law enforcement trying to educate and stop people that are violating the law. We call them e-bikes, but when parents buy these kids the bikes, they often come with governors, and the statute says that anything up to 28 miles an hour with assisted pedal power and electric power is considered an e-bike. Well, kids with YouTube have figured out how to turn off that governor or disconnect or rewire something, and now they can go up to 40, 50 miles an hour. That is no longer a bike. They also take the pedals off, so once you take the pedals off or the pedal says power, you're just riding with it. If you see something that appears to be off, just like the vandalism, contact the sheriff's office and ask them to come out and have a little chat with whoever it is that is driving that.
Yeah, when I read that entire, like you just said, that bill or whatever, I thought, oh my gosh, who's gonna sit there and go, he wasn't going 30, but he was going 28, but he has this pedal, but he doesn't have that motor. All this detail. To me, it's an electric bike, I don't care how fast it goes. You got people on it who don't have driving skills. You got kids that are like 11, 12 years old driving these things. And they don't have the skills really to do something quickly enough at that speed. And it's
At
just
those
so
speeds,
dangerous.
Kids are not supposed to be driving. You're supposed to have a motorcycle endorsement to ride.
I think it said 16 and over, right?
And they don't have, I'm sure, the helmets and protective equipment that they should.
No.
So welcome to Florida. So if you're riding a bicycle, you need a helmet. If you're riding a motorcycle, you don't need a helmet.
Right.
Yep, that's right.
That was thanks to Bike Week in the Daytona lobby from what I was told.
Okay, so what we'll do then is, I guess, try to work, like you said, with the meeting first, and we can certainly reach out to the principal. I know the resource officer at the elementary school here. I mean, we can talk to them and see if they could help and do some kind of education. But at the end of the day, the parents are the ones who wind up being liable, and they need to know what's happening. That we're just not gonna play
St.
games
John's
with
County
them.
also printed out cards, like information cards on what's allowed, what's not allowed, and they were handing them out to anyone that stopped at schools, things like that. Again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. St. John's County already
Right,
created.
and that was where, St. John's County?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, their sheriff's office took the lead on all of that.
great. Jen?
Just real quick, I did have an opportunity to interview the owner of the e-bike store here in Keystone. So what the St. John's County Sheriff's Department does with all the students on that area is first of all, the kids have to be 16 and up, but that's, I guess, the discretion of the parents. But the second part is that if the kids are riding the bikes correctly and have helmets and the whole 9 yards, they're giving free ice cream cards. And so that's a reflection for the other kids, and the kids are like, well, why didn't I get one? Because you don't have the right attire. So they're trying to give the kids incentives, so it pushes them to wear the whole entire attire. And I thought that was pretty awesome what the sheriffs in St. John's County is doing.
And the other thing you have to remember is, even if you're on a regular bicycle, an e-bike, moped, motorcycle, you still have to follow the rules on the road. So the one kid that ran through a stop sign and hit the Amazon truck and was life-flighted and died, he was wearing a helmet, he had all the protective gear, but he wasn't following the rules of the road. So I mean, there's that level of education that has to happen contemporaneously with kind of the e-bike regulations.
Mr. Bill?
And Madam Mayor, I just remind you, we're not even to consent agenda yet, so we haven't even got a public comment, so.
Not
I
to
know
pile
this
on,
is gonna be a
but-
hot topic.
I'm sorry, not to
That's
pile
okay.
on, but the education for the children is great, but I think I had the same experience at Azalea Park with adults on ATVs using it as a track.
Mhm.
And then also the same gentleman on July 5th was probably going 60 miles an hour doing wheelies up and down town, probably the same one you saw. All those times I did call the sheriff and no response, no one came out. So that gentleman was around for a half hour riding around town on the red bike that day.
So we need to
No
bring that to the
response.
attention of our
Yeah, yeah. So
gentlemen
again,
over there.
I know they're busy and other things are going on, but that's been my experience when I see something, I call and I don't get a response.
Okay, thank you.
Public comment, we do have two.
Okay. You gotta tell me where I am on this list.
Yes, ma'am, public comment.
Number 6.
Okay.
Obviously,
Public
need to be
comments.
discussed.
Do we have any public?
So we have two public comments. First is Mr. Todd Beals.
Mr. Bills.
All right, hey, everybody, I'm back again. First, I just want to say thank you through Kiwanis for Wendy and Drew and Garrett and everybody for everything that they do to help coordinate with us to kick off the parade and all that. It's just, you know, they do a phenomenal job, and they're always willing to step up and do whatever it takes. So that was just we appreciate you. Thank you. But I talked to Nina the other day, and I didn't realize that there was a difference in what people pay for the pavilion. So I just wanted to address that. And basically, the pavilion, we rented it out for my granddaughter's 5th birthday party on Saturday. Phenomenal. Everybody that came loved it. They thought, what a great place to have a party. What we were questioning was, so the taxpayers within the city that are residents, they get to rent the place for $20 basically an hour. And if you're not a resident, you don't. But in the same, I may not be a resident, but I pay taxes within the city because I own my building. So to me, I mean, I think it should be kind of fair across the board. If I'm a taxpayer within the city, or somebody else is a taxpayer within the city, that they should have the same right to rent the building for the same amount, the $20, an hour for the building. And I wanted to toss that out at you guys to maybe reconsider, how that is set up for people when they're renting out the building. Because again, I'm probably paying more taxes than most of the people that are homesteaded within the city and whatnot, but we still have to pay the $65 an hour for the building versus $20 an hour. But yet again, we're still taxpayers within the city. So that's my spiel. I just wanted to toss that out there, see if you guys would reconsider how that's written, and give other business owners within the city the opportunity to rent the building out for the $20 an hour, because it was an amazing day, and again, everybody that was there that came was just like, wow, this is really great, and we do it again. So, and we had people that were coming in going, how do you do this? How do you get this place? And we literally brought them in and gave them a tour while we were there. So anyways, but yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind, maybe just rerunning that, through and seeing what your guys thoughts are on maybe balancing that out with, people that are business owners that are paying the taxes in the city.
Yeah, any comments? Ask a question?
I can give my opinion real quick if you want, just to make everybody a little more comfortable. I think it's a simple administrative change on the city's part. That's reasonable. We don't get to give the business owners any real benefit for the taxes they pay compared to, I know there's a lot of concern they don't get to vote. This one, they are kicking into the kitty. It's simple administrative change to add, and business owners that pay taxes into how we process folks. So I don't think it's that hard if y'all want to authorize it.
So, if my understanding was correct, the way it was previously drafted, they were excluded because we were basically worried about a business coming in at the same rate as say a resident, and they're hosting business functions
Dominating the schedule.
and dominating the schedule. So what we're talking about, I just want to be clear, I have no problem with amending that administratively or supporting that if it can be done. But I want to be clear, do you find that, just so we have an understanding, is that kind of what you were seeking as a solution, just as a business owner, when you want to have a private use? Or would you want the $20 rate for commercial purposes too? I just want to understand kind of what your desired outcome is.
I was thinking more personal.
Okay. Totally support it.
And again, because that's what it was for. It was our granddaughter's 5th birthday party.
Absolutely, we appreciate what you pay in the city, absolutely.
We don't want businesses using it to hold training seminars and conferences and things like that. That's not what it's there for.
And I think it falls in line a lot with what we did with the food truck fee schedule thing that we revisited earlier this year as well. I think it would align up with that, similar. If you're a locally registered business, and obviously in this case, City of Keystone Heights business, then you get that incentive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal when you're talking, we rented it for 3 hours, $60 versus $195.
For personal reasons,
right.
You're not using corporate money for it, I understand.
Nope.
Yeah, and you're specifically talking about, you own your property and pay
Correct.
taxes on that property. It's not the people that are renting business property in town.
Right.
Correct.
And we only have a handful of standalone So, yeah, I'm very much supportive of
I
that.
don't remember the business versus resident distinction when it was first talked about.
Mhm.
I think the concern was that residents paid for the pavilion and the renovations, so they wanted to give residents the benefit because it was then paid for.
Mhm.
The big issue we were running into, with nonprofit organizations and some businesses, we had where a business did use it for a big training event, and
Yes.
so, and then some of the nonprofits we were seeing, they reserve it and I think it was free to nonprofits. They would reserve it once a month, but they wouldn't ever use it. It was holding us up from renting out to others.
And there's still limitations in it, like 2 per year or something.
It would
like
still,
that.
I would recommend we hold the same resident 2 per year for personal use, and then it would go up to the regular, the full non-resident rate.
So if the council directs staff, they can bring back, some proposed amendments for your consideration.
Okay. You all agree
I
with
would
that?
motion to approve that direction.
Any more comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys, appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you. Next.
We have one more, public comment, Ms. Jen Sampson.
Nice to see y'all again. I'm from the Heritage Commission. So I just want to let you guys know that the 4th of July parade and the 4th of July activities that happened with the city were phenomenal. We had 9 entries in our pies and they were just fantastic. It was just amazing to see all these different types of pies. Unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity to try them. I wanted so badly to try the key lime. But, you know, we had a record turnout for the 5K, like 580 participants. That was pretty huge. I believe we had like 1,500 people for the fireworks. So we really did have a phenomenal year, I think, this year. So, and I hope that next year we keep bringing it back. And I know everybody loved the parade for our 250th. So I just wanted to let you all know that on update from our end, how well our pie contest went.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations. I did try 2 different ones.
I was gonna say, I think I heard you suggest that we reserve pieces of pie for council members.
Yes, for next year, yes.
All right, so, moving on to the.
Madam Mayor, may want to check if we got anybody else that wanted to make public comments that didn't give us a card. Not seeing any, okay?
All right, sorry. Consent agenda. We have several meeting minutes, our financials. We have a contract amendment for the waste management. Just some clarification about locations. And let's see, the FAA letter of support for the airport. And 3 requests for the pavilion use. Any questions?
I was deferring to see if Dan had any comments about the minutes.
No, I read through everything, and I was very pleased actually with all this work, the contracts and everything. That it was, whoever did this work was outstanding. I do have one fix, and it has nothing to do with the actual consent agenda, it has to do with our agenda. The city council meeting was held on June 1st, not June 6th, as our agenda today says.
The actual minutes entry says June 1st.
Oh,
Yes, you're right.
It's
It does.
conflicted into, okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It does. Just to be accurate, our agenda tonight should read June 1st, 2026. Otherwise, well, very well done.
And I noticed on the consent agenda under 7, the PDF noted that we have before us tonight is different from the one that I was received and the one that is online. So I'm under the impression that under item 7, we are indeed approving the June 1st minutes, but there is that variation there. So, but just for the record.
So with that amended, if there's no further discussion, I will make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Alrighty, next we have committee reports. Mr. Zizer? Dr. Zizer?
A little slower than normal.
Would you do run that 5K?
Of course not. I gave up running that 5K about age 52.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hello.
Last year?
Thank you for your time. I wish it was last year. I was in the best shape of my life my last year of rugby. So anyhow, thank you all for this time. As you have heard, we voted for transmittal to you guys, your comprehensive plan. We are very happy to have made that slug to go through. And it's also my monthly plug for the City Challenge Coin for the members of the board that happen to have participated. They put forth maximum effort in various forms, various ways to the city and their staffing. I just want to put out my appreciation with them. And as far as the Facebook posts go, boy, it was brutal. This last 6 weeks were brutal. I don't know what got in everyone's bonnet. There were several community members that were in support, and there were many, many more that were not. I took my boys down there. They were behind me. I'm trying to get them exposed to the idea of civic involvement as they get older. We play catch at the tennis ball court because my shoulder is terrible. They are awesome. I am not. So the backstop worked great for us. So we did see the graffiti in the chalk, and I looked at it and said, well, so I tried to smudge it up. It didn't smudge. So yeah, I don't know what, obviously paint chalk. I don't know what it was. It was horrible. Fortunately, it wasn't graffiti in the negative sense. It was praise Jesus, so that was kind of nice. And that is really all I have. Your Safer Watch app, I've used it several times. Your gentleman with the red motorbike going up and down Lakeview, doing wheelies. I don't know what he has for a muffler. I think he doesn't have one. So I've tried to report that on several different occasions, including someone trying to steal the potted plants off my front porch. As far as the expectation of privacy, in the execution of my duties, I am a building inspector of the state of Florida. I was actually recorded doing my duties, and the person who recorded me called my boss. And I said, wait a minute, and they said, nope, you have no expectation for privacy. Fortunately, I did my job correctly, and they told them to go pound sand, which was kind of nice. So that is the end of my thing. I just want to give a brief broadband to support everything, all the comments that we had prior, and to say we've been working hard, and to give the URA team. Any questions for me?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate all that you do.
Awesome. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, next we have our action items, the fiscal year 24-25 audit presentation and annual financial report
Can you hear me?
approval.
Okay, hold on one second.
I know you're gonna have that voice in.
Yes, ma'am. So I've got, Madam Mayor, I've got Brad from Powell and Jones CPA firm. He's gonna do the presentation on the last year's fiscal audit. And so as I already summarized, clean audit, so appreciate their support and the team's work. And Brad, I'll let you go ahead and just do the initial summary and then take questions from the city council.
Yes, sir. So first of all, I really appreciate the flexibility you guys are showing me. Would have definitely preferred to be there in person, but given the circumstances, I'm very grateful for your understanding. You should all have an annual report in front of you, I believe. And so I'm just going to kind of run through a few things on there. So there's two annual reports that we did. We did one for the CRA and then one for the city. I'm only going to work out of the city's annual report because the CRA information is also within there, and I'll try to run through this pretty quickly. So if you are on page 1 of the report, or page 4 if it's in the PDF form, that's our independent auditor's report, and it basically gives that summary of what Jamie, I believe, has already communicated. One is that it starts out and talks about, okay, we conduct our audits in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, as well as governmental auditing standards, and then we discussed that the goal of an audit is to obtain an unmodified opinion which speaks to the reliability of the financial statements for the purpose of decision making. And so in paragraph 2 of our independent auditor's report of both the CRA and the city, you did in fact receive the unmodified opinion. So it means that in our opinion, the financial the information in the financial statements is good for decision making, and it's reliable. Pages 4 through 11 of the auditor's report is what's called the management's discussion and analysis. This section gives context to the information that's later in the report, later in the financial statements and what have you. It gives context to those numbers and the notes that are associated with that. And so because it's based on that information, I'm going to skip over that. But I would recommend if you're interested to read that in a little bit. I'll go to page 14 and just kind of run through a few of the highlights of the report here. On page 14 of your audit, you have your balance sheet is basically what the city owns, what they owe, and then the net of those two amounts, which is called your fund balance. And one thing we like to discuss when we do these reports is it's called your reserve ratio. It basically states that how many months would you have of reserves or your unassigned fund balance if you spent at the same level of spending in the current year and didn't bring any money in. Now, just to show you the numbers I'm looking at, your general fund is primarily the fund I'm looking at right here, and that's that first column on the left. You have about 400,000 unassigned fund balance. You would have 2 to 3 months, or over 2 months, just under 3 months of reserves built up for that particular fund. Just to put that in context, the GFOA, or Government Financial Officers Association, recommends that you have over 2 months. So you do have that, but it is close to that right there. Also, as we discussed, the CRA has 368,000 in restricted, or has 368,000 restricted fund balance. At the current spending levels, you would have had in excess of 5 years of reserves there. So that was well beyond that 2 months. I go to page 16. Page 16 is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. Basically, this tells what the city, what they earned, what they spent, and then the net of those amounts, which would be your, some would call it your net income. It's your excess or revenues over expenses or deficiency, as it were. If you look in your general fund, you spent $567,000 more than what was earned. This was due primarily to an increase in general government personnel expenses, and it appeared based on the budget that this was anticipated. So because you guys did come in under budget on your expenses there. The CRA fund, which is that second column there, you spent or you earned $147,000 more than what you spent there. So that was positive. Moving on to page 18, we're looking at the proprietary fund. This would be your cemetery fund. And it functions like a business where you're earning money based on what you sell and what you earn through investments and what have you. And basically, the main thing I want to show on this statement of net position, or this balance sheet type statement here, is that you had probably 9 years worth of reserves there. So you had plenty of reserves based on current levels of spending in that cemetery fund. And on the next page, on page 19, it shows that that you earned $31,000 more than what was spent. So in the cemetery fund. If you go to page 33, another thing we'd like to point out are capital assets. Just to report on. There. So there's a table on page 33 for your capital assets, and the table on page 33 is relating to your governmental funds. That would be your general fund, your CRA, and your capital improvement fund. In the current year, you have about $286,000 in capital assets there, and we look at another measure about it. It's called accumulated depreciation. Accumulated depreciation basically is a way to allocate the expense of an asset over the course of its life instead of just that first year. It's also good for budgeting and planning. If we're looking at this, 81% of your the useful life of your capital assets are depreciated. And so while you're probably not going to replace buildings and what have you in the infrastructure there, it may be an indication that you may be looking at some repairs and maintenance expenditures, so something just to kind of keep in mind as you go forward. On page 34, you have the cemetery fund, your capital assets there. You paid for about $18,000 increase in capital assets there. and your depreciation, they're about 55% used up, so it's right in the middle there. Go to page 46. And so one of the things that in government accounting requires is that for your governmental funds, that there's a budget versus actual. And so I'm looking at your general fund on page 46 here, and one thing I want to point out is your total expenditures came in at, basically you had an amended budget that came in about $225,000 less than that amended budget. If you go to page 48 for your CRA, your expenditures came in about $128,000 less than your budget there. So page 52 is the report section of the report, and basically, in addition to looking at the account balances and what have you, the numbers on the report, we also look at internal controls for the opportunity to identify areas for potential findings or recommendations. If you look later on this page, report on page 52, we found that there were no findings this year and no further recommendations in either the CRA or the city's report, as Jamie said, and furthermore, the findings that were on last year's report, if you go to that last page 60, all of those were substantially addressed and corrected in the current year. And so, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. But that we really appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys this year. So.
Y'all have any questions?
No, I appreciate what they've done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into this further compared to previous audit statements, but I would like to say that this is the first year that I can remember ever we don't have a recurring finding. So kudos to our city manager and Miss Tiffany Smith. Did I say that right?
Tiffany Coleman.
Tiffany Coleman, sorry, thank you. Tiffany Coleman. The fact that we have no recurring negative findings or problems is outstanding. It is just fabulous.
Any comments, Ryan?
No, I like it.
Okay, good. All right, can I get I guess I gotta get a motion to approve this, right?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Hey, Brad, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad.
Yes,
We
sir.
appreciate it very much.
Thank you all so very much.
You have a great evening. Thank you.
Okay, next is the Geneva General Assessment presentation. There's been a lot of noise on also social media about the Geneva General and negative comments, unfortunately. But did you want to go over the?
Yes, ma'am, and I'm gonna get Leathers Associates on the line here real
Oh,
quick.
we gotta do that?
We're doing it twice.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting way ahead of the game.
You're fine, just go. I'll do the summary here in just a second, once I get them on.
Oh, okay. That's right, that's the vendor for the Geneva General.
I'm trying to keep everybody balanced and updated when they were gonna be available for the briefing, so. Hey Brett, it's Jamie. Can you guys go off of this phone, or do I need to try that conference line again? No, I can put my phone right up to the speaker. We can go ahead and start here, or if you want, I can try you on that other phone number you gave. I just tried to call it and I didn't get an answer. Yeah, if you can go on speaker from that one, we're ready to go. Okay. Yeah, I'll go give a quick summary and then we'll jump into it. So hang on there. I'm gonna put you on speaker and I'll put you up to my microphone. Okay, Brett, can I just get an audio check from you real quick?
Brett from Leathers and Associates. Good
Okay,
evening.
I got you. Thanks, Brett. And also with Brett is Mr. Mark Leathers, the owner of Leathers and Associates, and Mr. Bill Myers, who did an inspection for us. So for the public, in a quick summary, back in 1997, there was a community build that was facilitated and led by Leathers and Associates. You'll see their name down on Geneva Jungle. And so I don't know how many members of our community went down there for 4 or 5 days and actually built Geneva Jungle. It has been, so it's, I wanted to say my numbers were something like 20 playgrounds, what, 29 years old or something along that lines at this point.
29 years old.
Yep. And so obviously it's showing signs of wear. I saw their name on the side of the building. I'd heard some complaints, and we've been trying to do incremental repairs. So I thought we would call them and see if they had the capability to come help us do an assessment on it, which they did a couple of months ago. About a month ago, we got the report that's included in your packet that went kind of item by item, piece of equipment by piece of equipment, doing the assessment. I'm just going to give you just kind of a broad summary, which was the main structural supports, the main beams, are in relatively good shape until you get up to the top of them. And if you were actually up top, you'd see there's some rot that goes down, sometimes a foot, maybe a little more in some of those areas, though that may be repairable. The main beam that supports the structure in multiple locations is in pretty good shape. Some of the supporting beams, particularly of the structures that are up in the upper tier, up by the parking lot, have not weathered as well. So some of the structural beams that are underneath have rotted. Sometimes you'll see a failure where some of the decking kind of has a spongy feel to it. That's because some of those supporting beams have rotted, aren't taking the load quite as well. And then there's various different components that either have been closed off. There was a spiral slide that was removed, I don't know how many years ago, that's closed off. Some of the chain type of play equipment out there, the more modern version is now a rubber coated cable. And so we've still got some of the old chain kind of playing equipment, and the report recommends that gets swapped out for some of the newer type of equipment that it's kind of safer for hands and kids climbing on them. And overall, it's time for some form of repair. The overall report recommends 3 different potential tiers of what the city could consider under the way that the Leathers and Associates does the repairs, which is typically based on a community build. And I'll see if I can get to the right terms here. A minor renovation, which may be expected to get about a 7-year lifespan extension. Leathers and Associates estimated maybe about $66,000, along with a community build or a minor renovation with the community support coming in and helping that out. A major renovation, still using the same bones, wood, and structure, with a community build, might extend the life in the area, maybe 10+ year lifespan, but that would be in the $193,000 range for a major renovation of the existing structure. And then shifting to a modern playground, predominantly plastic in structure, basically coming in, demoing Geneva Jungle and coming back in with a modern community build with more of a plastic structure, somewhere in the $365,000 range. Those modern playgrounds should be expected to last 30 years with minimal maintenance needs. And so that's where Leathers and Associates recommended potential options. Now, I will be clear, anytime that we get into those type of expenditures, we would have to go through our regular procurement process. We can't go direct to Leathers and Associates and award a contract. So we'd have to scope out what we want, advertise it, and who wants to participate in bidding or a proposal would have to do so. But Leathers and Associates, can give us some more information, answer more detailed questions that you may have had after reading through the overall summary of the document. I just did a staff recommendation. If you were to choose a way to go along the lines of the courses of action that Leathers and Associates provided from a staff recommendation, I think the best bang for your buck in the current situation with the city budget would be with a minor renovation. That would gain us, 6-7 years, something like that. In that time frame, the city could choose to start budgeting on a regular basis, more money to do a major overhaul, or to seek other grant opportunities to gain more funds available to do a more significant overhaul of the structure. Eventually, that's going to need to happen. Wood only lasts so long in the Florida environment, so we need to look at that in the longer term. I think a minor renovation now buys us that time and gives us the breathing space with the budgetary constraints that we have and are looking towards in the future to allow us to make a better decision. And so I'm gonna stop talking. I'll offer Leathers Associates a couple minutes if there's something else maybe that I didn't cover in my very brief summary, and then we can kind of go around and take any questions from the city council that you may have. Brett, you or the team want to make any other comments?
I believe, Mark, you have something to say, sir? Yeah, I'll jump in. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Leathers. I'm the owner of Leathers Associates, and I appreciate your time. So, I think you did a good job kind of outlining, the entire situation, how we broke it down in those tiers. Obviously, we've done this hundreds of times at this point where we've done renovations or replacements, or we know exactly kind of scenarios that you're involved in. At some point, the question just simply comes down to how long is the playground going to last, and the worth putting how much money into it, and what do you get out of it. So while we've broken it down into kind of minor and major, there are options within each of those to fine-tune those a little bit as well. So I guess I'll put that in. It's not necessarily black and white. We can go back to the scope of work and kind of narrow it down and push it a little bit more. But the biggest difference between the minor and the major is the minor is really, I don't want to call it a Band-Aid, but it's close to what it is. It's kind of buying some time, take care of some safety issues, stuff like that. And any replacements would be with similar materials. And the major one, the reason the cost is a little bit more is because you're talking about upgrading those materials. You're trying to upgrade maybe some plastic lumber, maybe cable equipment, as opposed to paint and hose. So there's some pretty significant upgrades in there. Now, and there's definitely some options as well. So what we're narrowing down this scope of work for you, because there is room to have discussions, about those as well. At the end of the day, as you can see, I think the cost effective, if you know you're going to replace it, would be smart to go with a minor renovation for sure. It's always unfortunate because no matter what, the unit that's over 7 years, that money could be going toward the new one, which is really why you choose the minor renovation. You know that the time's kind of limited with the existing structure, but, obviously that's based on the budget abilities. I'll throw one thing in there. Everything we do for the most part is community built. We have contractor versions, but most of our projects fundraise for a lot of their projects too, especially in the community build models. So there's always that, there's an option, maybe potential to offset the cost.
Thank you, Mr. Leathers. We appreciate it, and I'll open it up to City Council if y'all had any specific questions.
Brandon, any questions? Dave?
I concur that the bang for the buck leans toward a minor renovation, and I thank you for that. I have a question about the longer term. One of the things that appeals to me with the current Geneva Jungle build is it looks kind of rustic. It looks cozy, much more so than a plastic setup. For the longer term, the plastic material you're talking about, does that pretty much look like every other plastic playground around, or do you somehow is there a cozier version of that thing?
Gentlemen, I'll summarize the question. So, our vice mayor was asking about, what he's seen of kind of these plastic playgrounds, and he likes the way Geneva Jungle looks with the wooden framing system, the wooden facade.
Rustic, yeah.
They're more of a kind of a rustic look. Is there a way under the modern plastic rebuild that we could reach a similar facade or look to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. The plastic lumber that we use, even though we call it plastic lumber, and that's what it is, it's still lumber. But we use it just like you would wooden. And at the end of the day, we've never had a client come back where we replaced a playground or done a renovation using that, where they didn't honestly think it was wood. It looks very similar. So we're still very far from looking like a manufactured plastic playground. We can still do all the kind of cool custom aspects and design stuff that we've had in our original designs.
So you're saying the plastic is more designed to match the wood look in the way it's created? Kind of a wood grain plastic appearance, so it's more cohesive?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Cool. I think that's a discriminator, or it differentiates our playground and beach from every other one around.
Okay.
Do you recall, is any of this money in our current budget for next year?
I can tell you no. I had not been engaged with the Geneva Jungle when we were building the budget in August and September, so it is not currently budgeted in the CRA or infrastructure. It would be something that the board / council would need to consider, give me guidance as we're going into, as we continue with budget builds, to start to look at that. Another comment, I was made aware that the budgeting cycle for the Florida recreation grants, they're called FERDIP, and I'm not gonna get the acronym quite right. The cycle, I believe, would require a submission in September, but it is one of the grants that goes through the legislative appropriation cycle, where we would have to wait until the governor acts next year this time for knowledge if we wanted to try to go for a FERDIP grant for Geneva Jungle as a possibility. The timing on that, we may start to know if we're going to have the funds around this time next year as a potential grant option to extend our capability beyond what we have in-house city funds.
So I asked because our financial planning for next year doesn't have money for this. We are already over budget. I've asked you to create a budget taking 11% across the board for everything. So we just don't have the money for it. Now, we could take some of our savings, but we are right at the 2+ month ratio that we should have, and so we probably should not be taking anything from our reserves. And so this, although this is a very good use of money, unless we can get a grant, we'd have to look at who we're gonna fire or what we're gonna cut, because we just can't pay for this.
Councilman, I would recommend not that there's an easy option. We would probably need to have a discussion on what our prioritizations are in the CRA, and decide, do we continue to move forward with do we continue to move forward looking at the trailhead, or do we delay trailhead phase 2 and put a priority on fixing what we have? That would be my recommendation for us to discuss, depending on where the priority of the CRA board / council is. It's probably where we would need to find the money.
And so I had forgotten, and maybe this needs to be on the CRA agenda, but I had forgotten that the beach falls within the CRA, and we do have money there.
It would fall under our parks task line. Of the 4 areas, the focus would be parks.
Right.
We would just have to authorize a new project.
So we should move this to that agenda on August 3rd then, because that's the budget it would come from.
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Yes.
So forgive me if this question was already addressed. I need to step out for a moment. Were there any areas, I didn't really see any that stood out, but is there anything here that's critical that incurs liability?
The immediate recommendation from Leathers and Associates was to look at the depth of our engineered, the mulch.
Okay.
There's a more professional term, engineered wood fiber, but we need to get in there and remulch to a depth, if I remember correctly, of a foot. That was if I recall, the primary key near immediate recommendation from Leathers and Associates.
So we don't have any potential where someone's gonna fall through it right now to where.
No, we've gone through and looked to try to fix all those, and Councilman, that's a continuous effort out there. There's probably 3 other issues I don't know about right now that we need to find and work on.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a feel for how much you've spent so far on the repairs? Just a ballpark?
When I first came on board, we were finishing an initial round. I think we put $8,000 to $10,000 in with a contractor around this time last year. And then I'd say probably $2,000 to $3,000 worth of material, not considering labor, rebuilding a couple other walls and shoring up pickets that have been kicked out. What do you think, Bo?
You're probably pretty close. That might be on a little bit on the high side.
So maybe $8,000 to $12,000, somewhere in that over the last year.
Yeah.
We're already at 1/3 of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you, Dan. We move it to the next CRA meeting, you said. And, looking at that, like you just said, already 1/3 to do the minor repairs. I can't believe the amazing cost it takes, just like the $390,000 to redo the whole thing. It's just unreal. That just drives the value of these things that we provide in the community and how we have to continue to protect them. And I hope people get a feel for that, like how would you feel in your home? You invest that kind of money, I don't care if it's 10,000 or 400,000. You want to protect it and take care of it. And that's really the way we want the community to look at our resources that we provide here. But yeah, I say we'll take a hard look, because it's probably one of the heaviest used areas that we have. I mean, that jungle thing is constantly being used. And it's again, all the little kids, and sometimes kids are too big in there, but it stays really, really busy. So it's a real serious consideration that we need to look at.
Are you going to attempt to apply for the grant?
If the council so directs, we'll start pulling it all together now.
So Madam Mayor, if I may, yeah, so that's what I was, so my personal recommendation would be, I think, looking along the lines of the minor renovation in the interim, and obviously we can talk about that more in the next CRA meeting. But something that I think would be really beneficial as we look to attempt to get that FERDAP grant is including something about ADA accessibility. Because I think that would significantly increase the chances of us getting more funding towards what we want to even complete that minor renovation in the short term. But I think the discussion will probably ultimately come, depending on what we look at, that we probably want to add that either to our current strategic plan or our next upcoming one, as because that's going to be a major project.
I think it's already in it, isn't it? The ADA grant for the park? Did we not?
It is in our.
We talked about it.
Yeah, well, the ADA accessibility for Geneva, for Keystone Beach is budgeted in the infrastructure plan. I do not believe it is specifically referenced in the CRA plan.
So what I was referring to is a large scale renovation, because you're looking at probably a 5-year, if not longer, time span of that, because that is so much money, and obviously we have the uncertainty with what may happen with the state's budget amendment. So, like I said, my recommendation would be in the interim, a minor renovation absolutely buys time, and then as you look at FERDAP, getting that ADA accessibility would probably increase our chances of getting that FERDAP grant. Although there are some things that are tied with FERDAP, so like timelines. Anything secured through the FERDAP portion of the grant would have to be maintained for so many years, which I had seen in previous cities, like they ran into issues because it's a longer time span. But for example, it could be something like you referred to the mulch, something needing to be replaced involving that. There's different things. Some of that conversation can be had at the next CRA meeting. But like I said, I think an overall large-scale one is probably going to be the best long-term option, but that's a several-year project, not really a short-term fix. But that might be something we want to, when we look at the next strategic plan. Because when does this one end?
You said September?
Oh, I'm sorry, the strategic plan or the?
No, for the grant, for the public use grant.
The grant application, I believe, is 30 September. I've got to double check. I'll be honest, that was an AI search, and I didn't get a chance to go in and click the link and go through and confirm that's what's actually on the state's website. But I believe it was 30 September once I verified.
Okay. Anybody else? So we'll just move that to the next on the agenda item, then make a decision on what we want to do, how we're going to follow up.
I'll pull up more information together.
Thanks. Thanks, gentlemen, for all your help here with this. We appreciate it.
To Leathers and Associates, I just followed up. The mayor said thank you so much for y'all's presentation and help with this.
Absolutely. You're very welcome.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the line. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to y'all later.
All right, thanks.
Okay. All right. Next is the truth and millage timeline and maximum millage rate. Mr. Booth.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Jumping around document here. All right, so I'm going to start off with the truth and millage timeline, and then I'll get to the max millage rate. So truth and millage is the state's requirement for municipalities to go through to make sure that we're publicly going through the process to set ultimately the millage rate in September. Right now, we've received, we'll see, on the 1st of July, the county property appraisers office populated the value of property in Keystone Heights. That piece of data point allows us to go in and start calculating information. On the 4th of August, the next time hack for the city is that we have to go in no later than the 4th of August and in the online system populate the maximum millage rate. So the maximum millage rate is the highest millage rate that the city council intends or will legally be able to use in the next fiscal year once we set it and lock it in the system. That's what the maximum millage rate is. It's not saying that you're going to use that rate or that's the rate you're going to decide on in September. You're just putting your upper threshold into the system so that the property appraiser can then update some documents and mail that out to all the citizens. For us in Keystone Heights and Clay County, it'll say what the proposed maximum millage rate is on that document. Then we go into the process in September of holding our first and second budget hearings. And there's some newspaper advertisements that are part of that. The reason I wanted to talk the timeline and as an attachment to this to this agenda item was that the city calendar that we've used throughout the year, on the updated version in blue, I basically put down the dates that we had on the calendar before was the 9th to hold the first budget hearing along with our city council meeting. I remember correctly, on the 9th of September. We do a CRA board meeting and then the special city council meeting, or at least the first budget reading at 6 o'clock, and then we do our city council information, the rest of the agenda items. Now, the issue with that date is that's a Wednesday. And so that would be off of our normal day. I think sometimes Rich is able to make it. What I'm proposing is that we look at the 14th, September the 14th, Monday, go back to a regular Monday meeting, though it'll be delayed. We're pushed back because of the Labor Day holiday in the first place, where every September the city runs into this. And so I'm proposing that we hold our first budget hearing at 6 o'clock on Monday the 17th. Monday the 14th. That would allow us to advertise in the paper on the 17th, the proposed millage rate. Then we could come back on Monday the 21st at a CRA board meeting and city council meeting at 6 for the second hearing where we would adopt the millage rate and the budget.
I don't know if you can do that.
It gives us...
There's a certain number of days that get worse than the second.
You have to, the only one that I found was you had to advertise, after the first, you had to advertise within 15 days. And then after you advertise, I believe you have to hold the second meeting within 5 to 8 days of advertising.
And then the other thing is, we come third tier, behind the county, and then the school board.
That is correct.
The school board goes first, then we come to that.
And I confirmed that Clay County's gonna hold both of their meetings on their regular Tuesdays, and the school board will be doing their meetings on Thursday.
For some reason, I always thought we had to have 2 weeks in between, like I thought there was a 2-day.
I thought so too.
So I didn't think you could do a week.
I could double check that. I guess we could come to an agreement on setting the first day.
So you said the first you're asking for September 14th?
Yes, Monday the 14th.
Usually we try to go as early as possible. I don't know if you want to do a problem with 7.
Well, the issue, going on Wednesday doesn't buy us any time versus Monday the 14th because we'd have the meeting on Wednesday and you have to, for the city of Keystone Heights, we have to advertise in the paper on Thursday because our only paper is published on Thursday, the Bradford County Telegraph or the Clay County. So we would not be able to have the information we need from Wednesday night. We can't publish in the paper the next day because the suspense is Tuesday or Monday the prior. And so.
But you could advertise in August for the first meeting.
I'm saying the advertisement for the second meeting. We don't have to advertise for the first meeting. That is announced in the county of property appraisers letter that goes out in August.
Oh, the trim notice.
Yes.
Okay, so that's true. The trim notice will set our first date. And then, like I said, I thought there was a certain number of days that had to be between the first and the second. So the other reason why, generally speaking, municipalities try to go a little earlier is because if we mess something up, you're trying to give yourself a buffer of a couple, like for example, Hurricane Jones, which has happened. You're trying to give yourself a buffer of when to still have your backup meeting still within the month of September. Otherwise, it creates problems with the continuation budget if you pass that date.
So last year we met on the 18th and the 29th.
Which was pushing it really late last year.
I think we need to front load it because of the situation, the climate. We need to be on the front end in case anything comes up. That's just mine.
So when would the county be done? Because theoretically, you could possibly do like a separate budget meeting the night of August 31st, and then the second hearing would be the same night as our regular September council meeting of the 14th.
There's a start point in September where municipalities can begin.
Then we have to do it after the school board
Yeah.
and after the council.
You just can't do it on the
So
same
you
day.
can't pick the same dates because you
Yeah.
want both to be able to approve both.
Can it be before their meetings?
It can be before, just the school board gets first priority on what date they select, the county gets second priority on what date they select, and then we'll get third priority.
And usually in the past, the county's done, from what I've seen, August. That's why I was saying the very literal last day of August would possibly set us up for success if we did it that way.
I just know in the trim documents that they briefed us, the beginning for when we could schedule, I want to say was the 3rd of September.
And then, yeah, there's so many days after August, so it may be that your first possible date is
No worries.
September.
This is why this thing is so painful.
Oh, my Lord.
Okay, trim timeline, between September 3rd and 18th. Between September 3rd and 18th, the taxing authority should hold a public hearing on the tentative budget and proposed millage rate. This tentative hearing is published on the trim notice the property appraiser mails. And then it says, within 15 days after the tentative hearing, which could be as early as 4th of September, the taxing authority must advertise its intent to adopt a millage rate and budget. The notification, that's how it's noticed.
Right, so statute starts with 35 days from valuation, which is when each taxing authority advises the property appraiser. Then there's a 10-day, 55-day, 80-day. I have to map them all out as to what. So if you have the DORs, it'll tell you that first meeting date. So you said 3rd to 18th?
3rd to 18th is the window for the first meeting. And then I've got, after the first meeting, it tells you have to advertise it within 15 days. And then it's the taxing authority should hold a public hearing on the final millage rate and budget 97 to 100 days after certification of value. This final hearing should be held 2 to 5 days after the hearing is advertised. I haven't found in this year's publication of spacing in between the first and the second, other than advertise within 15 days after the first, and then it's got to be 2 to 5 days after the hearing is advertised. That's why we typically will advertise on a Thursday and then hold the final hearing on a Monday.
That makes sense.
I support the 14th and 21st, but I understand the logic of going sooner, but that's really, really difficult. The 7th is a holiday, the paper's published on Thursday the 10th. The paper has the requirements about when you have to give them the stuff for it to be included in publication.
If we go,
The Lake Region.
Monday is the formal date. We can typically sneak them in on a Tuesday, but Monday's the formal date for the paper.
We were on Tuesday.
Sorry?
Right, but we can't delay it to a Tuesday night meeting. Has to be a Monday night meeting so that you could do that on a Tuesday for us.
Right.
But Monday night the 7th is a holiday. That's Labor Day. So Monday night the 7th is not an option, and you can't do it the rest of that week.
I'm good with that proposal, the 14th and 21st that you mentioned as well, Dan, as long as that keeps us in compliance. I know Rich is over here looking through it right now, because I did think there had to be a larger gap in between as well. But as long as that works out, I would be supportive of that as well. The 14th and 21st dates.
I'm good.
And the problem is we missed the advertisement on the 15th.
We'd have to do the advertisement in the paper on the 17th.
Yeah, which we'd have to have it in.
We have to have it into the paper.
Technically,
Right,
it's
right.
due in on the 14th.
Well, if you meet on the 14th, then they can put it in on the 15th. And if we ask them really nicely.
Can we call the editor, call someone?
I think we have a connection, right?
Last minute correction.
A lot of pressure, Jeff.
I'm assuming that we would postpone or change the Coffee and Commerce that's currently scheduled for the 14th. And we would do the same for planning and zoning that's scheduled on the 21st.
The planning and zoning, I would propose we bump to, since it's just the second budget hearing,
Yeah.
and all you're doing is setting the millage rate and adopting the budget. And actually, on the edited version, I recommended we move the planning and zoning to a 7 o'clock meeting that night, just to keep them on the same night, just deconflicting in time.
Okay.
And then we have dropped all the coffee and commerce meetings.
Got an email today.
Oh.
It's not a bad thing, it's a lot of the same attendees that attend LRPP and,
KLRBA.
yeah, and so they.
Trying to reduce the number of business meetings we're asking folks to attend on a monthly basis.
I'm gonna miss it.
So are we good with the timeline?
Rich is just doing a double check.
Okay.
Which meeting had the best food?
The sheriff's net.
Debbie's cooking. So.
No, I think that's okay.
Okay, and if you want to keep looking, we can move on to the next issue discussion. And so we could probably just package it all together, Councilman.
One other item, you had mentioned, you did say August 4th for the next meeting. Is it the 4th or is it the 3rd?
I'm sorry, August 4th is when in the trim system, we have to set the maximum millage rate.
Okay.
The next city council meeting is August 3rd, the day.
Okay, I wanted to make sure, because I'm like, I
And
have
may
it on my
misstated
calendar.
that.
You're good,
The
priorities.
appraiser needs to know by the 4th what the number is that's set for the maximum millage, because that number then gets published in the trim notice, which is mailed out, that also notifies the first year.
No, right, he had just said the meeting was the 4th, and I kind of panicked, I was like,
I misspoke.
No worries.
And the other thing that's in that, the decision of the data we put in on the 4th of August, and the trim system is the first hearing date as well. That's why this discussion is important today. So the next issue is gonna be setting the maximum millage rate, and I'm trying to find my notes where I've written down my updated information. I know in the update that I provided y'all that's in the agenda, I had run some rough numbers based on this, what the property appraiser had provided us back in June as an initial number. And when they've gone back, they go back in and populate the formal number, and that number changed. So that they populate the maximum, the amended taxable value of the city of Keystone Heights and also the community redevelopment area as well into a system. With those new numbers, I've gone back and calculated the recommendation that I made to the Budget and Finance Committee for the maximum, setting the maximum millage rate. 2012, the city passed a budget policy. In that budget policy, it said that the city would not set the maximum millage rate any higher than 10% above the dollar value of the funds brought in through property taxes the previous year. And so if you go back and calculate that number, the property taxes that we received are supposedly the previous year is hold on, let me find my number, $383,374. That's what our millage rate you set last year should be bringing in this year. If you do 10% more than that, that's $38,337 more. If you throw that calculation in and calculate it against, and I didn't write the number down, the total between those two, you also have to account for the new adjusted taxable value of the city, all of the city, which is $111,264,832. When you run the millage rate calculation to get to set the maximum millage rate in accordance with our 2012 policy, that new millage rate would be 3.7902. 3.7902 would be the maximum millage rate if you set it 10% above last year's property tax receipts. That is my recommendation to the city council of what we set our maximum millage rate. Once again, so everybody's listening, that is not the millage rate that the city council is going to adopt. Well, I mean, it could be, but that's for discussion in September in the first and second budget hearings. This just sets the maximum that the city council is going to consider for these trim notices.
Can you please remind us what our village rate is now?
3.6073.
Yes, that is correct.
Can you repeat that? 3.6?
3.6073.
It's on the Clay County Property Appraisers Office
Nominally
website.
3.6.
They go back historical versus final rate.
3.7902. You can also go to the Clay County website and pull up mill rates for historical information on all of the cities in Clay County and see history, like from 2016 to present, I believe.
That's
every
right.
year, what their rollover was and what they settled in. And I think the longest period of time we had, probably from 2016, I say, something like that, it was 4.201, something like that. But since then, we've continued to go down in the number. But it's interesting to see what everyone else in our county is doing. And they all have similar challenges like we do. You know, they may have bigger population, but they have bigger budget, so it all goes hand in hand. So that max rate then, because what we'd settled in when Dan and I had our budget meeting, was 3.8430. But now it is 3.790.
Yes, ma'am. And that's based, that change is based on the updated property value. But the previous number that we were working with in June was 108 million and some change. So.
Okay, anything else about that spreadsheet you want to talk about?
No, ma'am. So the two actions that I need your guidance on tonight would be setting our first date for the Monday, September 14th at 6 p.m. and setting the maximum millage rate at 3.7902 mils.
I'll motion to make the date the September 14th date at 6 p.m.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Can I get a
Maximum millage?
motion for the maximum millage
So
rate?
technically, we don't have to do this tonight, because we do meet on August 3rd, and we could do it that night. Now, I'm not saying we should wait till then, but technically, we don't have to do this tonight.
That's pushing it really
It
close.
is, you're right. We have to make sure there's no hurricane or anything that happens on August 3rd.
Well, is
Except the
there-
problem is
I
we
mean-
didn't advertise that we forgot. We just had written down treatment range. Well, maximum millage rate rates, you get everything.
Can't hear you, Rich.
I'm trying to make sure that it's advertised as the action that you're taking on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on our agenda.
Well, yes, but it's not saying establishing a maximum millage
Well,
rate.
it says maximum millage rate.
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed that we were
That might be
voting on the maximum millage rate tonight based off of what I had seen, so I would assume,
We're probably okay, right?
We call it that.
Mr. Lawyer?
because it's an action, because it's under the action
know.
items list, so if it's under action items, obviously I would assume we're taking
I
action.
think so, yeah.
Make a week.
Let's
Do
down
it
there.
down.
I'm looking away now.
When we go down this way.
Ask ChatGPT.
Can we provisionally adopt that unless we decide to change it?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Can we provisionally adopt
No.
that and then change it?
No.
No.
No, you set the, when you vote to set the maximum millage, it's set. That information is transmitted to the property appraiser, that is included on the trim notice that goes out to all residences within the geographic boundaries of the city.
So even if we decide early,
Once you set it, you set it.
Right.
It's normally not.
And now that you have the newest number and how it changed what we looked at just 3 weeks ago, you know, it went down a whole point. So compared to what, or at least a point, maybe more than that.
What would the rollback rate be under this scenario?
Hold on, let me get that spreadsheet up. It should be I wanna say 3.49.
Oh my gosh.
Give me 1 second,
So,
Councilman.
first, I'd like to recommend to the council that we abide by the city's policy. And the city's policy is we cannot raise it by more than 10%. And so therefore, there is no reason, in my mind, for us to discuss any millage rate higher than 3.7902. That would be the most, according to our policy, that we could raise the millage rate by. The only question is that an appropriate maximum? That's not what we're gonna do, that's just a maximum.
And of course, the public watching at home should understand that just because we are advertising a maximum millage rate does not mean that will be the final rate.
That's correct, we've done this every year for
Yeah,
the past
so we want to reiterate that in case
double
someone comes
decades
back.
at least.
it's the maximum possible, not the maximum adopted.
Exactly.
Correct.
So there's a lot of different nuances this year, based on legislation that passed and how you adopt a budget. So counties and municipalities are required to go through a 10% budget reduction exercise to identify strategies to reduce the budget. In addition to that, if the ultimate millage that's adopted by the city council is 10% greater, up to 10% greater than last year's rollback rate, or the rollback rate for this year, requires a supermajority vote. Anything over 10% requires unanimous vote, just so you know. So if somebody wants to go lower, and then the proposed millage and budget is 11%, it fails, it won't pass.
Well, we already asked our city manager to prepare a budget with 11% cut on it. So he's already working on that.
I think it's a 10% cut after the approved budget, with the recommended budget, then you're gonna do a 10% cut, correct? That new state law,
So compared to the current.
compared to the current. Oh, well, we're already doing that, okay,
Yeah.
that's great.
So just a point of clarification on this, page 11, and again, I know this is germane to what we're talking about, but this came within the auditor's report that we're going to submit to the state and be asked to. It points out that the city has been undertaking in prior years an effort to reduce expenses. We've reduced expenses in this city by 30%. So the 30% reduction in operating costs and expenses, at the same time that there have been tax increases. This is what this says. This is not what I'm saying. It's what it's on page 11 of that report. The public will have access to it. We are already engaged in that process. So I think that's germane to this, just to point out that we already do have reductions in place. This is a multi-year effort by the city, and we have I think a threat on the horizon related to revenue potentially that we have to account for. And obviously these new guidelines from the state are a concern as well. So that also being said, if the mayor would allow me, I'll tell you that I don't, Mr. Booth and I talked about it on Friday. I've listened back through twice to the budget meeting. I don't think that we should be looking at doing an 11% across the board cut to every department. Two areas that do concern me, I think about the city's net position, but in particular building out our infrastructure fund. I know Mr. Booth's working on a capital asset plan, but I would not cut those areas or do any cuts to city staffing. I wouldn't, those are two areas. That's why I didn't submit submissions for anything as a priority. We've got a long-term horizon with infrastructure. But those are two areas that I would not entertain a cut in. And so I'll just tell you, I plan to vote against anything that cuts those two areas because it affects the overall, I believe, ability of the city to maintain the appropriate net position that's discussed in the audit. And it speaks to the long-term financial health of the city, past even, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even a decade out. And it would endanger our ability if we do really not maintain those critical areas. I believe it would reduce our ability to obtain, just for a better term, loans if we needed those, or municipal funding options. And so that's my personal view. I feel like you need to hear it from me. I shared this with Mr. Booth on Friday, so I submit that to you. I'm not, I certainly hope that we're not in that position, but I also would recommend that we not base a balanced budget off the current revenue. I think we need to start from the get-go with a budget that assumes the worst-case scenario and build out from there. And that probably will result in revisiting some of the priorities, but we're setting ourselves up for, I think, really a public perception problem if we don't do that long term. We need to just tell the public where it's at. This is not about, we have to deal with the threat that's here. We're putting Mr. Booth in a bad public relations position if we don't go from that, with that really, if we don't go with that approach, in my opinion. So again, I want to support the budget. I want to support advertising, whatever maximum rate is potentially there. But overall, I think our whole process needs to start with the assumption that we're going to see a significant reduction in revenues. And I think we've had a couple of good years, but even with that, we're going to have to confront a reality that the landscape of how government interacts with the public and all of that is changing. And we're doing ourselves and Mr. Booth a disservice if we don't start from that position as a default. Now, again, I really appreciate the work you're doing, but that is my personal opinion.
I would like to move that we set the maximum millage rate for the next fiscal year at 3.7902.
All in favor?
Now we need a second first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a second?
That was the value that Jamie mentioned earlier.
Right.
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And there was a question that I did not answer. I believe the rolled back rate is going to be approximately, and this number could change, 3.4456. 3.4456. However, that issue that I discussed earlier, the CRA and the CRA city increment, tax increment, could affect how that calculation comes out. I'm still working on that.
Thank you.
Related to that, and the mayor and I discussed this, is we may want to look at the city policy regarding increasing or not, keep it at 10% the millage rates. And just maybe even, it's been 14 years, something like that, just do a review of the city policy. But we don't need to do that tonight. Just throw it out there, heads up, this could be happening.
I totally support that. I think that everything goes out the window in the current scenario. And we start with all fresh assumptions and I think the community should be thankful they live in Keystone Heights. We're in a better position even though we have substantial threats than other municipalities.
Any more comments? Thanks. Sure what to discuss yet on the subject. All right, next is City Council member budget item proposals. And I believe Wendy gave us a couple of examples. And we wanted to talk about this. This is,
That would be Councilman Wonder.
is this yours, Brandon?
Yes.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure how this process worked because this is my first budget year. So bear with me, but there was 2 items that I submitted that not only fall under the strategic plan, but they would also fall under things we're trying to look at, as Councilman Knight brought up earlier, looking at infrastructure things, because I do believe that is critical. And so the first one, it's listed on your agenda as MAP. And I love acronyms, but MAP stands for the Marking, Assessment, and Painting Project. And one of the things that I noticed, I brought this up before, but I do evening walks around town pretty consistently. And if you walk along some of our major thoroughfares and even our side streets, you have a lot of roads that the paint that is on them, that is like the street markings, has completely worn off. I'll give an example. Right by my house, there's a speed bump that I've looked back on Google Earth, because you can look back at previous years. I don't think that has been repainted since the early 2000s. And so it looks beat up, it looks nasty, it's scuffed up. And so many of them have faded. The current situations, many have faded after years of heavy traffic. And so my proposal was including something in the budget, and we can discuss the amount. Everything, obviously, as he mentioned, goes out the window because of what has gone on currently. But part of my proposal will be this year assessing some of those more major thoroughfares. You're looking at Nightingale, Orchid, Lakeview, and Pecan, of repainting those stripings. And then side streets would follow down the road, not this budget cycle, but look at it as a multi-year thing. The secondary benefit is that you would improve the appearance of the street aesthetics as well, because instead of places where it's falling apart, it's something that is I don't want to say it's inexpensive, obviously it's going to be expensive, but it would significantly improve the appearance of some of these streets. And so I emailed back and forth with Jamie about it, and the starting number was $25,000 for what would be a recommendation for this upcoming year. Now, some of that is subject to change, because part of something that I believe is being talked about with item 20 is possibly a grant for resurfacing on Lakeview. So you could completely scrape Lakeview off of this list if we're looking at resurfacing that through a grant, and then you only look at Orchid, Pecan, and Nightingale. But I at least wanted to toss out a starting something, and then council could whittle from there. But I don't know how this process works, because I was not here last year, so.
We didn't do this even this level last year. We kind of.
No, in fact, I had 2 things to add, but after the proposal to be on the ballot here, I took it off. I said, we don't have money. We're not going to have money. And so I love your idea. I don't know how we're going to pay for it.
Well, so it would come out of our current infrastructure fund. Everything here is based off of a
current infrastructure fund.
Yeah. So I'll just jump in. And so with the build of the capital improvement plan for the infrastructure fund, or the capital improvement plan schedule, Councilman, you may recall I put in a planning factor to about $200,000 a year is what the city should be expending on our roads. In that, it would be comprehensive of predominantly milling and overlay before they would go into failure mode, because it gets much more expensive. Striping would be part of that. And then also, we just got the updated proposal in, or the updated study in from ICE about a 5-year assessment on the roads. And one of their recommendations to the city is that we should probably take about I think, if I remember correctly, it was about $25,000 a year of our $200,000 that we're appropriating. We potentially would appropriate, if y'all want to authorize it, is to do a surface treatment on a 3 to 6 year old road that kind of fills in those cracks that have developed, and you extend your life much longer. You can expect much more than a 20-year lifespan if you do those treatments. And so I think what the councilman has proposed, getting the striping, really should just become a regular component of the capital improvement plan. Whatever amount the city council wants to budget on an annual basis, my recommendation is you're in the $200,000 range to make sure that we're maintaining our roads and streets. So.
Now, that said, are there any specific roads or intersections where this painting would be necessary sooner rather than later due to traffic or pedestrian safety?
I think the councilman has identified a few that are probably key. What I would say is we certainly, and we try to ahead of the school year, go in and look at some of the faded school crossing signs or just the school signs and make sure we're refreshing those. I would look to the areas around the schools to be the front end of whatever we're doing, if it's something beyond an annual touch-up.
Yeah, and to the point of that is, Orchid was done, or Nightingale was done relatively recently as well, so it's not, and as I wouldn't forecast that being as expensive as one. Orchid was done a few years ago. I think last that I know of was 2020, possibly before that. Could be completely wrong, but that's the last time that I remember that one being done, so it's starting to kind of fade a bit. But this is something that we should regularly be doing, because like I said, if a speed bump hasn't been painted in 20 years and it looks beat up and that, like, that's just not, it doesn't reflect on our heavily trafficked roads. This is your entry sign into the city, and it says a lot about you, about how your signage looks, how your markings look, things like that. But I will say some of these aren't in as bad condition, but some are worse than others. So like Lakeview, as was mentioned here, Lakeview is in pretty bad shape. I think most of the paint is pretty much gone outside of this crosswalk right here.
It's the biggest problem. When you start driving enough, you stop paying attention. I'll have to go out.
That's why I walk.
I gotta go look at it and pay more attention on certain
It'll get you, yeah.
Well, and all the work that y'all did early in the year at the park and parking downtown, huge improvement.
Absolutely.
With the painting and even in the park going down the steps and the yellow and. It
That's
just
what made
looks-
me think about it.
Looks like brand new,
Right.
yeah.
So we don't have a list, we have a study in progress related to the condition of the roads, correct?
We have a completed draft. I attach it to the weekly update I just sent out on
I saw
Sunday.
that,
Yes, sir.
but I have another question, was this coating that can be done.
Mhm.
So say a road's at year 17 of its lifespan, is the coating effective in that?
It's actually summarized in the report.
Okay.
It says you do it at 3 years, 6 and 12. There's 3 opportunities for treatment, and then after that, the studies show it. There's no positive effect for continuing to do it.
Okay.
It's in that report in one of the recommendations.
You can do chip seal, and then you're doing milling resurfacing, and then you're doing new roads. So chip seal is what you're talking about.
You need a motion?
No, I don't think we need motions. I would just recommend we just factor this into the annual capital improvement plan, and then as we take that and turn it into the infrastructure budget for next year, I'll do a better job of line iteming out how we're gonna break out whatever this council wants to appropriate towards streets and roads to specifically getting after the restriping. So budget and finance meeting, July.
So.
I would just say, it would help the city manager to have your input as to what you would like to see included in the budget prior to that budget and finance, so we can put something
July
together
28th.
by then.
Okay.
That's why some of these two things.
And that would probably also be a good time to hold as part of that meeting, like a workshop to deal with that 10% budget exercise, which is now required by statute.
We'll look at a time, cause those meetings normally occur at 10, on Tuesday.
10 o'clock, that's when it's currently. It's the 28th. And speaking of which, the budget finance meeting for August is scheduled at 9 a.m. on the 18th of August.
You may have made that update in this working copy.
Okay.
August, budget and finance, we did correct it on this updated version to 10 a.m.
It's, August 18th to
August,
10?
August
But-
25th?
If it stays at that, I cannot make it.
Okay.
Oh, the 25th.
Is that meeting in here? Because that's election day, so I know for a fact this facility would be
Which day is it?
under use August 18th. Primary election, yeah.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I know these
If
dates a
there's,
little
if
too well.
we could move it to the
August
25th,
25th, that's what threw me off.
that would be a ton better for me.
What date again?
Tuesday, the 25th of August?
I'm sorry, it's when you want it. I may have misspoke. I think that's what it's, I apologize. It's on our calendar, the updated calendar that was with the meeting,
Yeah.
August 25th, 10 a.m.
Okay.
We're good?
Cool.
I probably said the wrong thing.
Okay.
I apologize.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then we'll look at the pavilion for that, like,
Well, it's not an election day, I don't think, the 25th.
No,
25th should be fine. Okay, got it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Sorry, a lot of different discussion lines there. I'm trying to keep track of
Our
them.
other one,
Okay.
July 28th.
Yes, July 28th, 10 a.m.
And we'll also look at a workshop on that one. I just haven't spent the time reading through the new requirements, so.
The other one that is on here as well, and like I said, obviously we can have a conversation about the amount level because everything changes with this budget. Is something we had talked about earlier this year. It also falls under that infrastructure fund, but would be the prioritization of that sidewalk along the Nightingale Sunrise corridor that we had voted on as a council. So there's a couple of ways that it can be done to so the absolute maximum, similar to what we were talking about with the millage rate, is 100,000. I don't fully expect the city's going to pay that. Because there's a couple of ways that it can be done where, one, you can get funding for ADA accessibility, which, considering it's going to follow along the length of a park, absolutely should be able to qualify it for that. Something that Rich had brought up at not the last meeting, but the meeting prior to it, is that instead of doing a concrete sidewalk, you could do an asphalt one. So think of, for example, the Rails to Trails that runs through town. You could potentially do that through there, and the asphalt would be significantly cheaper than the concrete. So the 100,000 was just the absolute high end. And then the other thing is you can also look at grant funding for some of those types of things. But I at least wanted to get something included, and ideally it probably would be a multi-year project, because I do think with the Sunrise Estates PUD coming in, with that Winn-Dixie that's going to be coming in at the shopping center, even though it's technically outside the city limits, it connects right there to it. That would make that part of the city walkable. And like I said, there's a ton of high school students who currently use it after school to walk there anyways, and they're just walking through dirt and mud and all that. I think that's something that, we had that conversation, but I think this starts the step of prioritization and getting that project moving. And so this would be included as part of that infrastructure. Where does that pot of infrastructure money go?
And I do have an update, Mayor, if you don't mind. So we had budgeted in the infrastructure account $45,000 this year to do a study and design on sidewalk in that area. I reached out to ICE, asked them to give me a cost estimate for this particular area, because we did talk, I forget which meeting we talked about doing this. And so they came back, their estimate, they think $45,000 is right for their design work. And talking to Clay County, asking them how they evaluate design proposals, we kind of switched the discussion with myself and the county engineer, now the county manager. The county is looking at potential contracting avenues that could allow us to use their skill set, do a lot less design, go more towards construction. When the county does something like this, they do not do a full-blown design. They don't go to an AE firm. It's simple sidewalk. They can do some quantity takeoffs and come up and get to a contract fairly quickly. That's their rough recommendation. They've come twice and done an assessment on that route. I'm still looking to see if they think there's something that we can partner with, where maybe the county might, under community development block grant funds, continue from the city limits on Sunrise all the way, get connected to the Rails and Trails, or all the way up to kind of where the McDonald's area is. I've told them, hey, the city wants to pay for our portion, but if we can get to a contracting vehicle and get a lot more, not expend as much on design, and use those funds more towards construction, there may be a capability of getting this done a lot faster with some of our existing funds, teaming with the county. It's not figured out yet. It's probably $100,000 to $120,000 project for the city's area. It's a half-mile of sidewalk. There's just, it's more expensive than you would think. The question is, do we want to go through a full-blown design, or are we going to try and use the county's capability to offer, and potentially, if their attorneys feel that we can get to some form of agreement, procurement, work with the county on it. So it's not locked in stone. I don't have any definites, but I'd much rather get $45,000 in concrete on the ground than just a design. So.
I would like to avoid the design costs.
Yeah, agree.
And I think that looking at the grant scenario, because I guess we technically meet that definition for a food desert at this time. And I think there could be some grants that would pay for access to grocery stores. They don't specifically do that, but people being able to walk or ride a bicycle somewhere to buy food, that's a major issue. So I would like to do that and avoid the studies when at all possible.
I agree with that, and I really like, Jamie, that you brought up that possibly doing the partnership with the county could eventually connect that to the rails to trails, because that would open up that area. So Park of the Palms, also a unique thing that I didn't think about until we had family that lived over there. There's a lot of people who attempt to cross 21 right there from Park of the Palms to do their grocery runs. And probably not as safe if people are flying there, but if you're able to do that, possibly a Safer Streets grant as well for a flashing. That obviously would not fall within the city, but it's something that if we have the city and county working together jointly on it, would be, I don't know. So I like that idea. I think that would be great, and it's not death by study either.
Right.
Study
I hate to say it, but it's true. You're like you said, it's a simple sidewalk.
Well, I think with the growth that's happening in that shopping center, with the new fitness place getting ready to open, got brand new Winn-Dixie getting ready to open soon. I don't know what else is going to fill in there, but certainly I think it's going to be a bigger destination than it has been. So, not to mention access to Sunrise Park. If we decide down the road to add anything in that area, it's certainly a bonus to have a good sidewalk together of some sort.
My recommendation, I owe you an update at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting of, what is that, 2 weeks from now, a week and a half, I forget, where we sit with the county and give you an update on my recommendation, what we look at either budgeting with this year's or what we carry forward into next year.
All right, and that is it for both of mine.
So I just want to add, with, like we say, this dread that's coming, I believe, with this agreement that's going to probably happen, which is going to basically gut us to a degree, too, and we have to rethink. And fortunately, we've already run very lean, certainly all the time I've been on board here. And we've got a very responsible council, my time and before my time. People have been very good about watching the money in the city. So I think we've done a great job with that. And we could probably tighten up a few things. But I'm thinking that with all of this challenge, and just like Ryan mentioned, really taking a hard look, and Dan and I had already talked about looking at the decrease. You said 11, but it's required 10% decrease in what we're already doing on this very small budget that we have. So I think it's time for us to have, after the vote, to have another workshop, strategic plan workshop, and revisit everything that we spent 2 days in creating to where we are today. Because clearly, the list that you've given us, Jamie, and like you said, we want to focus on our infrastructure and our staff, our core requirements that we need to run the city, which is what the tax money goes to now. It's earmarked. You can't use it for anything else, so it's very limiting to some degree. So we have to get pretty creative on Jamie's given us the list to keep our staff, keep our services as far as the city operations go, but it basically does pretty much eliminate everything else to a pretty high degree, which is really unfortunate because I feel like that's what I consider the thread of our community and the heartbeat of our community. So I want to try to find every way I can to figure out how can we keep at least half of those items somehow. But I think we're going to have to revisit our strategic plan and fine tune and probably change some of the priorities, even though I think our third year is coming up in 27 with that, with this, what's coming soon.
So you probably had conversations too with residents, but I've been talking to some of the leaders of local nonprofits. And there is at least some recognition that if this measure passes in November, that the civic organizations, the nonprofits in our community are gonna have to step up if we're gonna wanna continue to do things like July 4th. That our Country Day organization that we used to have that did all the July 4th stuff, it's gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to have that kind of help from our civic organizations because we just won't have the money for it.
It's not even that you won't have the money, it's redefined what core services are, you're not gonna be allowed to spend the money.
Exactly. It takes away a lot of.
Arts, events,
fun stuff.
all those things are not included in the definition of core services.
So we will find a way to navigate. I think our organizations that are here now do a great job. And I don't want to reinvent that wheel if we don't need to. Additionally, I do think that, Christmas, I'll just put it bluntly, I mean, that's a great event. I love fireworks, and other things. But we have a community also that has, when we talk about nonprofits, let me just use another word, churches. We have strategically located in this community people who happen to love the Lord and love the country. And this gives them an opportunity to have those conversations with us. And I hate it as much as everyone up here, but we have to play the hand. I told you I had a friend that liked planes, and he always flew his plane out of his farm. And he always said, you gotta play the hand you're dealt. And this is the hand that we've been dealt through no fault of our own. This is the issue where government did anything here that shouldn't have been, but we have to confront that financial threat. And so I'm fully supportive of revisiting everything from city policy and how we look at budget to strategic planning to every bit of that, and just be open about it. And I'll be glad to donate. I think it's good for the community. Have a kid knock on the front door and say, can you give $5 or $10? The city's gonna be doing this and that. Or
I wish
some
you could get that kid to knock on my door,
Yeah.
because it's normally 100 to 300.
So, there you go. I'm all in there.
And those same kids will be coming around about once a month.
I mean, can I say something real quick on this? Is it all right? I don't want to
Sure,
drag
come
this
on.
out, but one of my concerns with this whole thing is where, Dan's talking about pulling in the community, the groups, the Rotaries, the Kiwanis, the Friends of Keystone. The problems that we're gonna end up having is, we're only bringing in like probably, 8,000 to 10,000 a year, and we're handing out scholarships with those funds. So we gotta be really careful about, when we're talking about us as groups putting in this money for this stuff, if the scholarships will stop, if we're giving back, all this stuff to the community as far as for these events, and that's scary, because that's what people are coming to Keystone for. They want that small town feel. They want that, that, I don't know, just the
ambiance.
Of Mayberry, like everybody says, Keystone is our Mayberry. And, if we are not providing those parades, those spring fests, those things like that, we're really doing nothing anymore. And that's a problem.
I have that same feeling.
It's gut wrenching almost,
Yeah, just 3 years ago, we had maybe 2 or 3 events in year 2022.
Right, and you look
And I look now where we've come and how hard, all the work that went into getting us to where we are now. And it's just so disappointing to know that that's where it's gonna go.
when you look at what you guys just paid for fireworks, and everybody wants to see fireworks on New Year's Eve now, because we did it Friends of Keystone did it the one time. So again, we're, 30,000 for the 4th of July, 30,000 for, and those are just 2 events for fireworks. So
So are there any grants, or anything for patriotism or civic involvement that we can leverage? I'm not kidding. I mean, I know we can't call Proctor for this, but I'm gonna ask that question. Is there a way to allocate funds for that within legislation?
No. Not if the joint resolution is adopted by the voters.
What about, is there federal funds? I mean, can we look at it? Is there anything that we can do from a propaganda standpoint or community relations that would allow for fireworks?
I would say the grant writer position is gonna become very valuable.
Let me offer what we used to do, and that's something this council has power over. We used to have a street dance 1 week before July 4th, or the Saturday before July 4th. And the money that they raised at the street dance paid for almost everything. That's what we used to do, and the council basically squelched that.
There was 10 people that showed up to the last one.
Well, where was it?
It
And
was-
did they have alcohol?
It was.
No,
it was
they did have
on-
alcohol.
They did.
They did have alcohol.
Yeah, we
It was
went
outside
there.
the city limits, right over by Bo
Right by
Revere's
the-
place.
Near Hitchcock's.
And yeah, by Hitchcock's, and
There
it
was
was there
nobody
for
there.
probably 3 years, the last 3 years that they did it. And it was a failure every year for
So
the
the
3 years.
attendance, yeah, the attendance had declined those last
Well,
3
do you
years.
know why it declined?
Well,
Because
because
it
of the
used to be
location.
huge.
Location.
Location.
For sure.
It's the
Probably
location, okay.
People
We
wanted
have
it
to
in
put it right
town.
out here in the middle of town.
Right.
But I will say there's also people who want it for free. So like, I mean, I'm sure you saw the people complaining on Facebook that they had to pay $2 for an armband.
Yeah.
No, but the street dance was free, it
That's
was
part of
the
that's
alcohol
part of
sales.
Our public
that
perception
made the
issue
money.
we gotta deal with. We got a lot of people complaining that just don't live here.
Well, the last one I went to was at the airport, and we did really well. They had 2 tickets, so people didn't get overly drunk, and they made a ton of money. And the airport lawyer argued that there was liability and that they shouldn't have it there anymore.
Not me, Sir Victor.
No, I know.
Okay, so just since we're discussing this, I know we need to probably move on agenda wise, but I'm for experimentation. If we need to experiment and have a one-off dance right downtown, Dan, will you dance with me? I'm just asking. But I mean, seriously, I mean, we
I'd
can.
pay for that.
I think that falls in line. I think that falls in line though with what the mayor was saying about revisiting the strategic plan.
Just need to look at.
And I think that's part of the discussion, because I know it's getting late, so I don't wanna keep everybody wrapped, but I think that's a way that we can talk about that is when we reincorporate it in the strategic plan.
All right. So we'll do all that coming up.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So, all right, moving along. The North Florida Economic Development Partnership membership.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll speed through this one really quickly. I'm proposing that the city council authorize me to become, or facilitate the city becoming a member of the Northeast Florida Economic Development Partnership. Annual dues are $2,500. The why is that this is the organization that can facilitate us working to be added onto the list of the Northeast Florida Rural Area of Opportunity, or RAIL, designated by the governor once every 4 years. The 2028 cycle's coming up. I propose we become a member so that we can work with them to facilitate getting us added onto that list. That list opens us up to no-cost share grants for, guess what, paving as one example. I've seen folks down in South Florida, some of the rural communities in there doing $600,000 repaving grants, zero cost share, because they're part of the South Florida RAIO. So, out of all the nonprofit organizations, this is the one that's got the potential to have a whole lot of juice in that squeeze. $2,500 a year to open up the opportunity for $100,000 grants on an annual basis, I believe is worth it. I think there's enough room. I got to double check if we've got the capability in this year's budget. I believe so. If not, propose to add it in, if fit it into fiscal year, the next budgeting cycle.
You need a motion?
I would like, or concurrence. I don't think I necessarily need a motion. Consensus.
I want you to have in your budget, I would say you need to.
Okay, Rick says motion because it's not specific line item in the budget, so.
Okay, I'll move that we join the North Florida Economic Development Partnership, and that dues be paid immediately. We need to get in as soon as possible.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Bless her heart, y'all are still hanging around here.
It's the last one.
We have, City Hall, HVAC system, replacement contract award. And Jimmy, just want to review?
Yes, ma'am, just real quickly, so we just did a bid opening last week on Wednesday or Thursday. So we advertised, we've got 2 units that are failing up top here, they're over 20 years old, they're well past their usable life. We've been limping them along. We were expecting somewhere around $10,000 a unit, rooftop unit, to get them replaced. We put those out and advertised them out in the paper. We received 3 bids in the invitation to bid. I'm just trying to get to the notice, but the recommended, or the apparent low bidder in our recommendation is Air Innovations. And Bo, I'm sorry, I don't have the, here, I got to the results invitation to bid. Air Innovations for 2 units, which is what we think we need, is $21,000. Our budget was $25,000. The next low was Lake Area Heating Air at $21,250, and the third bid came in from Lloyd's Heating and Air at $28,892. So staff recommendation is for the City Council to approve a motion for the city to enter into contract with Air Innovations for $21,000 to replace 2 rooftop units.
I move that we enter into contract negotiations with Air Innovations.
Second.
Any comments?
Negotiations or award? I mean, it's competitively bid.
Award's the award.
Yeah, so you don't need negotiations on a competitive bid.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming in here and bidding on it. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
This is the only reason why we sat here through this.
Thanks for hanging on to me.
We
You
use
guys
them
feel
for
okay?
everything, so that, hey, we're here to support.
That's so fun. So, Rich, do you have any comments?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, council, Mr. Vine.
Yes, I am, I've been having a few conversations, just introductory, with a nonprofit out of Orange Park, Waste Not, Want Not, I think is the name of it. I've been meaning to ask the city attorney about them, but they do appear to be legitimate. They specialize in alleviating hunger, in particularly Clay County and other areas. What I think makes them unique and worth talking to more is the fact that they do not derive their funding sources from government funding. So they actually procure food and send it out to various organizations. And given the state of things in general, I think it would be very helpful to continue those conversations. I know they've sent some reports out, and I think you all might have gotten the email too about them. But I am going to talk to them more, maybe go see their facility at some point, and just see what we can do. There may be a need in this community, and so I don't know a lot about them. You're welcome to hear that information. They haven't asked us for anything, but it would be worth looking into, and so I'll be working on that shortly.
If I might say, that sounds very laudable. However, we have right here in Keystone Heights an organization called the Lake Area Ministries.
Yes.
LAM, right across from Brooklyn Boys. My sons used to volunteer at LAM, and they do a great job of helping feed our community.
Yeah.
So my preference would be to support LAM first, not necessarily ignore Waste Not Want Not.
Well, they may be needing support. I hope they're getting support from them. If not, I'm going to ask them to support them.
The only thing I was going to say really quickly in regards to that is that Waste Not Want Not actually do work with LAM, and they work with other food banks throughout Jacksonville and here in Clay County. So they work a lot with Lake Area Ministry.
So you know them good?
Yes, I know them very well.
I've been kind of skittish with them a little.
No, News for Jacks, when I was working for them, they're very familiar with them.
Good.
So yes, they're a very
Good.
well reputable organization.
So, Mr. Booth, I'll forward, I think everybody here may have that email, if not, I'll forward.
I haven't seen it
Okay.
or I missed it. So
I'll forward it to you. They put together 2 presentations and they shared them so that you all can read about what's going on in the state of Hungary there.
Dan?
2 days ago, Senator Lindsey Graham passed away. And if it's okay with the council, I would like to ask our city manager to fly this flag at half-staff for the rest of the week.
The president already ordered it.
They already did.
They're
So,
already
can
flying
you
out,
get
they're
done?
flying out.
It's already down, yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Kudos again, I know it's already been said, but I mean, Drew started the morning on July 4th, working the 5K run. And then she came over and she helped me set up for my beach volleyball tournament. And then she left me and she went over to work the parade. And I don't know where she left, but she went work somewhere else.
She
after
worked on
that.
band sales.
Okay, you know, and then there was, my son was part of the Sunday eating contest at 2:30.
How fun.
My son
I
got
don't
second
know.
place.
That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
he got second place. My 2 sons helped me with the volleyball tournament. But I just want to say kudos to Drew, and Wendy came by, and I even saw our city manager collecting garbage and putting garbage where it should be. Thank you, Councilman Welch, for coming by, and I saw you 2 there, and July 4th was just wonderful. We had originally started the day with 7 teams entered. With my team, my maximum was 8. We had an 8th team join us right at the very end of the sign-up period, so we were perfect that way. And I actually had 2 other teams come up during the tournament to ask if they could join late. And I said, sorry, 8 teams, that was it. So I consider it such a success that I think we should do it next year and we should expand it. And I had both my sons helping me, and we talked about, we did like a hot wash afterwards, we called it. And we should start an hour earlier, and we could go to 12 or 16 teams next year, but this was a really good start. Last thing is going back to our situation with vandalism and crime and such. I'm gonna just make it real short. I'm in favor of cameras. I don't think we should have to do that. I am sad to say that, but I think that we need more cameras. I don't see another solution right now, and I see that as a cost-effective way to do things. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Dave?
Oh, you know, I gotta talk about speed limits. Just a quick follow on, I think, we covered a lot of the same points when we were talking about vandalism and misbehavior on the roads and e-bikes and so on, so on. Those don't need further comment from me. But it occurred to me to offer one final thought about that, because traffic going to Stark, coming up 21 goes around through Speedville. Coming up, going to Palatka, they can turn off 214. If they want to go to Middleburg, they gotta come through town. There's just no alternative. The kink in their progress through town is that stoplight. It's not speed limits. So the difference between, but it does make a difference in safety if we reduce that speed limit to 25. So the difference between 30 and 25 means they get to the stoplight 10 seconds later. More often than not, you come up through town, you're gonna stop at that light. Going 5 miles an hour faster doesn't make a lot of difference. But I think it makes a big difference in safety and noise as they accelerate coming up that hill from the curve. So just a parting thought. I'm sure the state or the county's models will bear that out.
Do they decide that, speed limits?
It is FDOT's realm because it's their right of way. We don't have authority on the state road, even though it's in city limits.
We'll see
With speed limits.
They're gonna study it and we'll see what the result is.
Problem is they gotta obey it.
Big pardon?
So the problem is they have to obey the speed
Well,
limit.
enforcement's another problem.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they obeyed it, it'd be fine.
Cause our window, I mean, idiots that come fly, I mean, we're like, holy crap, I mean.
They can make that corner?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you were like, they
Oh,
gotta
I
be doing
trust me,
50
I
miles an
have
hour.
come
Yeah.
clear, that's my.
I contend that even at 30, even if they obeyed this 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, it's too fast in that 3 or 4 block
Very
area
tight.
when
Did you hear
people
it
are
go
trying
by
to
now?
cross.
Yeah.
And it's just too fast.
Even the trucks they're not even doing 20 miles an hour with the big semis.
Yeah.
You know, they're like hitting the brakes when they start seeing that going down that way. So, yeah, still have that issue there.
I see, and I hear a lot of anecdotes about problems with people going too fast and having to hit the brakes and not being able to stop in time. Luckily, there were no children
My truck makes the corner at 63.
there. Yeah. The other thing that happens is people pull over to park, open the door,
Right.
and their car door will extend anywhere from 6 to 12 inches into the lane.
Yeah.
And if they're not paying attention, they're gonna take your door off. It's just, anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Brandon?
I just want to say thank you to our city staff for a phenomenal summer of events. Thank you for all you guys do between keeping everything mowed and looking nice. I've had a lot of friends and family in town visiting this summer, and I consistently hear the same thing of, wow, everything looks so nice. So thank you guys as always. Otherwise, you've heard more than enough from me tonight.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, the 4th of July, so proud of it. Every year, I mean, I started with the 5K, starting the race. Unfortunately, I couldn't get over there to the volleyball game. I had to, I dropped around to 5 different things during that day all the way till the fireworks show. And I just love how everybody steps up. I mean, the community, the groups, the different civic organizations, all their efforts in putting together the floats and getting everything ready for the parade. And I was sitting there in front of my house watching the parade, and it was pretty emotional, just watching how everyone is so excited to be there. I had probably 15 to 20 people come to my house that day that are not from Jacksonville. Half their sports team, baseball team from Jacksonville, where my grandson came with the coaches to watch our full day of events. They have a property at Hawthorne. And just the comments, they don't get to see that in Jacksonville. It's really special what we have here, and we have to be so proud of it. But the events were amazing. I looked at the growth. I mean, talked about 1,500 to almost 2,000 to come into the fireworks show. But I got some data from Carrie on the race, and I'm gonna tell you, it's impressive. And it started in 2020 and that was during the COVID year, with 106 participants. And this year, it was 581. It's an 82% increase. And I used to run. I ran for probably 25 years or so. And I remember the races that we would pick out. It all had to do with the theme and where it was, the path. What is the course that we're going to go? And so to me, it's telling me people are hearing about our little sweet little course here, and how charming it is, and of course with the holiday being there, I think it makes it even more special for people to come, and I fully expect to see her race continue to grow. I'm hoping that the reindeer trot also see some of that growth this year. But in final saying, just thanks again to our entire staff for your relentless time, efforts, all the hours spent. I know Drew led most of this that happened, but like you said, you saw Wild Man here. I saw him as we're sitting there, and I'm selling the armbands, and here comes Jamie in with his little chairs, but he's got the blower in the other hand. He's going down those steps. This is about 7 o'clock, I guess, almost 7, and he's blowing off the steps as he's walking into the park. I said, oh my God, it just never stops. And then finally, I want to give a huge thank you to Clay Tourism and Jack's Tourism for partnering to create such a beautiful video about our city. I met these ladies at WISC one day. I was there for lunch, and they came in. They're getting ready to have lunch, and they already had an appointment at the pottery place to do some pottery work. And she said they're going to go to the beach. She had all these things laid out, but she said we're going to create a video about your community. And as you guys saw, it was a really beautiful product. I actually have her contact info. I'm going to have to reach out and tell her thank you for doing that for us. But anyway, people do know who you are, I think, now.
So that page I followed for a very long time on Instagram. It was a local Explore Jacksonville
Explore
page.
Jacksonville.
The number of my friends from around the state who saw that on their social media, who sent that to me, because they all like know that I'm from Keystone, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are on the map!"
It was really well
It was
done.
really well done video.
Yeah, really, really nice, very,
For
very
sure.
personal, so I really appreciate that. And that's all I have.
May I interject?
Yeah.
During the fireworks, I wandered around among the picnic tables down by the beach. And kind of informally, we just talked to people very from. I didn't meet anybody from Keystone Heights.
Yeah.
They were all from Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando, and Gainesville, Georgia, north
Yeah.
of Atlanta. One visitor, so it's worth it.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Any more comments?
Our city attorney said we should charge those people more for the fireworks.
I think next year will be a different story.
$3 instead of $2.
Hey, we won't have to worry about the maximum millage rate moving forward, just the maximum armband rate.
Does anybody, you have any figures on the armband sales?
We
raised?
roughly $2,700 for armband sales, and Drew's still running the numbers. I want to say for all the vendor stalls, it was somewhere in that same area for the stall fees.
And we charge
And we've
zero.
got so many complaints
We should
about
have
that.
charged the money for the New Year's Eve one then.
Well, I had people say, what are we paying for? I said, the fireworks. You think that's free? I mean.
I know, that's true, but I mean, for the celebration of Keystone, we felt
But
like
I mean,
we
I said we
couldn't
have to pay for
charge
the
somebody
staff,
for
we
it.
gotta pay, well, there's a lot of expense with this. It's just not,
Absolutely.
But the reason we did it to begin with, because the fire marshal had a requirement that we could have only so many people at the beach.
Yeah.
And so we had to count that somehow, so we did it via armbands.
Yeah.
So really was fire marshal limitations.
We had about 1,200, because we bought armbands for people. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a bit for even for New Year's Eve.
Yeah. All right, meeting's adjourned.